So if you're not getting the iron your body needs, if you feel weak, run down, so if you're not getting the iron your body needs, start taking iron today.
It's Friday, my dudes.
Oh, yeah. Believe it or not, it's Friday. Now, if somebody tells you it's Tuesday, don't listen to those lying bastards. Understand it's Friday. TGIF. Welcome to Iron Rail Media's Have No Fear. And we have got an exciting show for you, I do believe. One that's been a while in the making. Before we get into that, let's say hello to our original normal panelists, starting off with the one non-Iron Realm, well, maybe not the only non-Iron Realm member, but the one that's been here since the beginning, Mr. John Savage. John, how the hell are you?
Oh yeah, Josh. Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's another week, another lockdown, and usual shite going on in the UK. Bumbling along as usual, but looking forward to tonight's show, that's for sure. It's been a long time coming. And how have you been, Josh? How's your week doing?
It's doing all right. Beautiful weather here in the middle of the U.S., right here in Missouri. I got these 2 weeks off since my boss caught the COVID. So it's 2 weeks of paid vacation during beautiful weather. Now, if I can only get my house to close during this 2 weeks, where I'm halfway through, I got another week. So they got another week to get the house closing done. Otherwise, I'm going to have to take off more work just to move and all that good stuff. So hopefully it'll all happen right here, right now, just the way it was meant to. And I won't have to take any other work off. So far, feeling good, doing well. Really looking forward to tonight's show. I think that's everything I've got.
That's good. Good week. Well, better go on with the show then, haven't we?
Let's say hello to, let's do Mr. Walt Johnson, just because I see his smiling face right there. Walter, how are you doing, sir? As if I'm not familiar.
Hi, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever you're doing. It's cool. It's Friday, or it could be Saturday for some of us. We'll get to that in a minute. It's been a great day. We had an amazing show this morning. If you hung out, if you didn't, go check it out, man. The link should be in our description. The love was flowing for sure this morning. We had the great Baldini pop in and give us an update on situations with Mac, and hopefully we'll get some more updates on that. It's Friday, my dudes. Let's do this. We have a guest and extra panelists, so I'll shut up. You heard me yapping for 2 hours this morning.
Well, let's head on over to talk to somebody who we also heard yapping for 2 hours this morning, Mr. Zachary Zabala, also known as Good Times for All, or Navin Johnson, or the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, or Too Nice for Rice, or the Nomad. I think, is that all of them? Did I get him?
I think you ran them, brother.
Holy son of a
We'll check the replay and see, but I think you ran them off.
That's a big, long while.
Nicely done. How is it going, everybody? Glad to be here. It's Friday. Not a bad week. Went and picked up the lumber today for the garden beds. So I'm excited. Going to get it all put in tomorrow and screwed down. I went with cedar. It lasts longer. It doesn't warp as easy. It doesn't bow and all that kind of stuff. And it keeps the bugs out. So it should look real pretty. Yeah. I'm out of shape. I am out of shape. I really need to get some kind of exercise thing going here. Because I found out today how out of shape I was. But yeah, not a bad day. I'm ready. Can't wait. Going to be a good show. I can tell already. So yeah, let's get rolling.
Let's do it. Well, let's say hello to the people for whom you are building these gardens, starting off with Mrs. Cammy Nodell. Cammy, how's your week been? I didn't get a chance to talk to you on Wednesday. I missed the hell out of you. How are you doing?
Hey, I am doing good. It's Friday, unless it's Saturday. We're in a time warp here. It's been the discussion of the day, but it is Friday, unless like you're Billy, and then it's Saturday. It's been one of those kind of weeks. It's been pretty confusing, going frontwards, going backwards. Beautiful weather, but overall doing really good.
Well, good. That's what I like to hear. And not to be left out, but your other half, the other half, Mr. Bob Nodell. Bob is, well, Bob, how are you doing today is the question.
On this, what may be or not be his birthday.
Now you just went and gave it all away. I'm doing just fine. Josh, I'm feeling not a day over 60, and I think that's probably a good thing for my 60th birthday.
See, I know there's a lot of people out there that are vegetarians, but for the record, you can get a T-shirt now that says "sexagenarian" right across the front of it and wear it with pride.
I think that's way better than vegetarian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought too.
That's hot.
Excellent. And thank you for the birthday wishes, Arwen. And Arwen beat me in to be first. I was just about to type first, and then Arwen popped in and beat me to it. So all I could say was damn.
The idea of Arwen and Liz both racing to their computers to get in there to be able to type in first in our chat, both in completely different areas on this plane, just makes me smile ear to ear. I'd show you, but for some reason Zoom doesn't want to connect to my camera today. So I guess it's just my logo, my little profile picture there. It'll have to do. But our guest has been a long time coming. I think he was first suggested back 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, maybe, when Brendan Daly first came on. And Brendan suggested we have Billy Zigg on. And I know in our chat, throughout that last 18 months, it's been suggested at least 2 or 3 times, saying, who should we get on? And Billy Zigg was the common answer. So,
sorry, guys. I didn't
hello,
shave.
Billy. Oh, look at you, cleanly shaved, you're coiffed, all nicely
I didn't
combed.
shave.
Oh.
I've been a homebody. I've just been hiding. And I heard someone say that you're going into lockdown, and I feel for you. Who was that? Was that
Yeah, John Savage here. UK.
Wow. And I noticed that on the 5th. How's that? Right on with that V for Vendetta.
Yeah, coincidence not.
How many coincidences this year? How many? You get these people that are going, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but, what's that about? Like, I'm not a but, so they don't even have the kahunas to go, look what's going on this year. Come on, add it up. Even my mum called yesterday, and she was asking about, and thank you for having me on. It's been great. It's great to be on the show. And my mum said, "Oh, is my wife wearing a mask at work?" And she isn't, because my wife got a medical exemption, as I do. And my mum said, "What? So this virus is so deadly that if you have a medical exemption, people just walk past you and it's fine now." How is it? All these inconsistencies of bullshit. We know it. Excuse me.
Well, we got a lockdown in the UK and the schools are still open. I mean, how much inconsistency do you want? It's actually, whereabouts in Australia are you?
I'm in Melbourne, Australia, so right at the bottom, underneath as far as you can go.
So you're right in the draconian grips of
mate,
bullshit there, aren't you?
We copped it the hardest because our Premier, Daniel Andrews, he signed up for this. He's right in with the Chinese Communist Party. And I'm not against Chinese people, because it took me a long time to realize that, let's say the population of China is 1.3 billion, which I doubt anyway. But let's say there is a, you know, whatever the population is, a lot of them are oppressed. They're in, you know, they're not making the rules. They're going to work. They're doing what we're doing, and they've got a social score, social credit system.
They're victims.
They can't do. They're victims, man. Well said.
Like us.
They are like us, but they're next level victims because they've already gone through it. And Dan Andrews, the Premier of Victoria, he signed up with the Chinese. He's done, was it 15 or 30 trips to China in the last 5 years of him being Premier?
Well, Australia's sold most of its groundwater to China and everything, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the rivers are running dry here.
And
if you look at Dan Andrews, and you've got to check your city. Check this for what I'm about to say. But there's something called the Strong Cities Network, right? Look that up. Google it. Strong Cities Network. And our government in Victoria, our Premier, he signed up for that. And if you look at it, it's these cops that come out that look like stormtroopers, right? That's the first stage of it.
Yeah.
Then the next stage of it is surveillance. The next stage of it is social credit score. Who knows what it's going to be?
Wow.
They're already telling us to dob your neighbours in if you've got people over at your house here. And, you know, it's gone next level crazy.
Yeah.
This is the year of enlightenment, 2020, when we get 2020 vision. So
yeah, we're seeing it all right, though, aren't we? We're seeing it. Anyone who's not seeing 2020, what the hell is going on here, has a screw loose or some psychological disorder.
Absolutely. And you brought up Brendan Daly before, and he is a legend. He created the Future of Flat Earth group, and that group's been really tight for, you know, a number of years now, 3 years, I'd say, since he created it. And it was just such a great place to meet a variety of people, and, you know, just like Nathan did with his group, which is gone now, but
That's insane.
that one is a bit more feisty. But I appreciate what Brendan has done, because he's kept this group, you know, very tight knit. And if you come in and you're there to troll, you don't last long.
Yeah, and you need to have a place like that. Hey, Billy, it's Zach. Nice to meet you, man.
Our little echo chamber, if you like, you know.
Mm-hmm. Where you can feel comfortable without, you know, because some people, they can't handle, or they don't get it when a troll says something about them. They just don't realize that you just ignore it. They almost take it personally, and it's like, you guys, this person's not being genuine. They're not being a real person right now. Don't worry about it. But some people, you know, they take everything personal. So it's nice to have a place where you can go to get away from all those people.
Yeah, definitely. And I reckon, you know, sometimes there are genuine people that drop into that group, and they do want to have, or just want to learn, you know, but don't go asking us, where is the edge? You know, why can we see the sun during the day, but, you know, why can't we see it at night? Well, that's just stupid, right? You know.
Well, yeah, you got to go do a little bit of research on your own. You know, you got to go. I mean, we could tell you, but are you just going to take our word for it? Like we all took their word for it? No.
And I
go
think
out
over
and
time,
test
we've
this
all
stuff.
come to understand it's more about dispensing with a lot of lies than it is trying to say, oh, I've got it all figured out. In fact, it's just the opposite of that. I don't have anything figured out. We'll tell you that all day long.
Well, it's like people who shit themselves about COVID cases now and start repeating the bloody news they've just listened to, instead of actually going out and seeing that a virus has never actually been proven to exist. Masks are nonsense. 2-meter rules are nonsense. The whole thing, this is the same with Flat Earth, is that they just come at you with this lazy ass 10 things that prove we live on a spinning ball, Aristophanes, ships over the right, and you just get sick of it after 6 years. You just give up on these idiots, because you know they're the ones walking around scared shitless with masks on.
The very same people, absolutely, aren't they? You know, they just ask crap, and you're right. And the pubs aren't open here yet, but I could just I'm actually fearing going back to the pub because I'm not one to keep my mouth shut. So if anyone sits there and says, "Oh my God, we survived," this like this, or says anything like that, there might be a punch on.
I miss the pubs. I'll tell you what. When it ticked over £5 a pint over here, yeah, and you can't smoke, you have to huddle outside in the snow and like a good little slave. And yeah, it just lost.
They take all the fun away, don't they?
But I miss the banter. I miss the chat. I got almost every job I ever got through the pub. In the pub, that was how we did business, how you learnt what was going on and how you made friends and borrowed things and lent things and helped people. And yeah, they just killed it, and by design, of course. But I didn't know the pubs were shut over there in Australia. I mean, to even say that, 2 years ago they're going to shut the pubs in Australia. I mean, hello.
And especially in Melbourne, where, if you know the history of Australia, you got the Eureka Stockade. So we had this gold rush in Australia, and the police and the government had control of everything. Even though people were digging out gold all day, they were broke. And then you had this rebellion occur. You look it up, called the Eureka Stockade. And that happened in Melbourne, like 100 kilometers, 60 miles from where I live. And to think that these very people now have become so leftist, and they're left wing here, because I've lived in Adelaide, Sydney for 10 years, Adelaide 10 years, and I've been away from here for about 20. So coming back here was like, what did they do to this place? Because the mentality of people was just, it changes, and government can sway that. What, you're like, we're one of the first states to, but you're right, yeah, going back just about a minute, our pubs have been closed since March. So I haven't been to the pub to get a schooner behind the bar, or a pint or whatever, or a bucket of beer.
Good grief.
For a long time, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
you're right. That would happen in Australia.
I've been to the pub once since March, I think, and yeah, it's all the enjoyment's gone out of it. If you're not wearing a mask and this sort of thing, and it's just all gone out of it. But Australia's always interested me insofar. Well, I was going to move out there. I'm married to an Australian. I was going to move to New South Wales, but luckily I could see I had more of a chance in my own police state than I did in moving to an Australian police state, where they're really not too keen on the Brits at the best of times anyway. But what always struck me as interesting with Australia was the capital in Canberra, that was just sort of built out of, instead of being Sydney, obviously, or even Melbourne, or one of the big ones. Canberra just sort of popped out of nowhere and was designed on a crazy sort of like Washington DC, with pentagrams and all sorts of symbology and everything into it. It didn't spell good weather for Australia from that point on, I don't think.
Good point. It's like they were looking for a blank canvas, right? They didn't want Sydney because they couldn't start from scratch. Melbourne, same, Adelaide, all the rest of the cities. So Canberra, the coldest place, in the friggin' world.
Soulless. It's soulless as well, isn't it? Because it's so new. And I don't know, when was it built? Was it?
I think it was in the 1970s or something.
Bloody hell. That's like Milton Keynes in the UK, which everyone took the piss out for ages because it's so soulless.
And if you ask most people what is the capital of Australia, they wouldn't bring up Canberra. You'd have to be a genius.
No chance. I bet half Australia don't know Canberra's the capital.
You're right, actually. You're right. A lot of us don't even know, Shit, I thought it was later than that, but Canberra, when was it founded, or when was it made the capital?
Yeah, made the capital.
Yeah, it was probably founded earlier than that. And it was because the Aboriginals had found a lot of these names are named.
Well,
A lot of these cities are named after Aboriginals as well.
I wouldn't be surprised, knowing their track record, if Canberra was some sort of holy place for the Aboriginals. Well, sorry, I call them the originals, but because they seem to like desecrating other people's holy places and building their own things on top of it, don't they? That seems to be the sort of modus operandi there.
Yeah, and especially, since being introduced to Tartaria, and my eyes opened up, like, hang on. And it's funny because, you start connecting the dots, as we say. And I remember hearing stories, because they always told us that the Aboriginals were, the Australian Aboriginals were, uncivilized. They didn't have clothing, they didn't have housing, they didn't have farming or anything of the like. But actually, there are other stories that say that they had cities here. So,
Oh wow!
and then when Tartaria came up, it was like, wow. But how do you? What I still can't fathom how they could make the Aboriginals forget their history. That's a hard one to, But looking into the propaganda that we go through now, the book burning, the modern day book burning, it's quite easily, really.
Well, especially when their history is largely oral, then that would be difficult to. But all they did was come in and ply them with booze, didn't they? I mean, they did to the Chinese with opium or whatever. What they did to them with booze, and it's pretty easy to forget something after a good lick of that with the pubs open. But
and it doesn't take long before you do that, and then have orphan trains, which they also had in Australia, running through the country, dropping off their children, and they're wondering, well, where did I come from?
And the amount,
not at a macro level, but at a micro level, like, where was I born? Who are my parents?
Yeah, and the amount they murdered as well. I mean, they murdered crazy amounts.
Oh yeah, in Tasmania they murdered every Aboriginal in Tasmania, except for one lady who was married to the one woman who was married to the Governor General, and they left her alone. But it's quite amazing that they have retained, I was going to say a lot of their knowledge, but I think it's quite distorted. They've been around 70,000 years, 50,000 years a few years ago. It's going to be 80,000 years soon, so...
Have you heard of the Egyptian hieroglyphs that are up in Gosford?
Yeah, I have, yeah. And, you wonder whether they are etched the same as what the Egyptians actually did. But one thing they did also find was in Penrith, which was west of Sydney, they found a 10,000, when they were building the railway line through the Blue Mountains, they found a 10,000-year-old, was it a pendant or was it some sort of sculpture from Egypt? So.
Oh, right.
And not to mention the Gympie Pyramid. Have you heard of that? That's in Queensland.
No.
So it's actually just like you got Chinese pyramids that are buried under mountains. Look up Gympie Pyramid, Gympie, Gympie Pyramid, and you'll see that there's a pyramid there, and they reckon it was, who knows when it was built, but they reckon it's under a mountain, and they use. When the British came here, they used part of that pyramid to build some really brilliant buildings in Brisbane, which is quite amazing. It's in Queensland. Look it up.
That's interesting.
So who knows? Our history is distorted. It's like we don't know.
Yeah, that's like a crime in itself, isn't it?
Crime in itself to do that. Like, why not just let it run? Unless you had a nefarious purpose. So we know that. We don't know anything. That's when you know. Sorry. But isn't that so true, though?
No, you're totally right.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
beat
that's
me to it,
skimpy.
Josh. I was about to ask you for screen share, and I've got that same page pulled up.
Nice. And
It's like the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, I've been fascinated with the pyramids, for probably like we all have for all my life, I'd say, since the first time I was introduced to them. How did they build them? How long? All those questions that arise. And So I bought a book, and I wish I had it on hand here, but it was a book called Ancient Egypt 30,000 BCE, right? So they're talking about what these pyramids are made out of. And there's a guy named Cadman, I can't remember his first name, but he made a pump. So, in the pyramids, what you see, that structure you see in the pyramid doing all that sort of shape, it actually is as above, so below. So if you take the ground, you've got the same happening underneath, and it connects through to the Nile River. And this guy named Cadman, it might be Richard Cadman, but if you look up the Cadman pump, you might need to do Egypt now, because people have actually replicated into a working model. John Cadman, his name is. You go to Google Images or whatever, and you'll see he created a working model of the pyramid that extracted water from the Nile River, and it pumped it up and somehow made electricity through the pyramid, which is the Greek word for pira is fire, and middle is in the middle. So fire in the middle, it created some sort of spark that created some sort of energy to the obelisks, maybe. That's why they kept putting them around the world. They'd take them from here and, from Egypt, and they took them to America. I
They
think
brought them over. They surely did.
didn't they? Yeah. So, and they did that for energy. Now we're looking at, have learned about Tesla and what he did, and who knows what they had. So look at this stuff they have. Yeah, brilliant.
Billy, are you familiar with Martin Leaker?
Yeah, definitely.
Right,
Great
good
channel.
stuff.
Quite British, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
that's right.
And another one I really like is John Levi. Have you checked his channel out?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So all of the hidden pyramids and the step pyramids, like you say, that are all hidden out of the mountains, that's a rabbit hole I've been down a lot of late. His channel, Wooden Nickels. So love those.
Have you looked at Richard Lopez? He breaks down some.
Absolutely.
Yep. It's hard to remember everyone, and I hate forgetting people, but there's, so
I
many.
know. I was thinking there's somebody else I'm thinking right now, and it's gone.
Stellium 7.
Oh, I haven't seen that channel.
Oh, definitely want to look at that channel.
I hope we can link it somewhere here.
Can we link it or bring it up? Or I just walked away from my computer. Bob, can you talk about Stellium a little bit? Did I lose Bob?
He's
Nope,
partying. It's
there we go.
birthday.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to reach my unmute button. So can you hear me now? Yes,
We
yes.
can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Stellium 7 is Mike, and Mike is Flat Earth Man, who of course is Alex. That he's like his best friend. He lives there in Spain, and he does this investigation of this mountain that is behind their houses. Their neighbors there in Spain. There's this mountain there that looks like the remains of some sort of an animal there. It's really interesting. And so he goes inside and he investigates it, and it looks like there's heart muscles, and it looks like there's remains of blood and bones, and things are in the exact right placement for what they would need to be. It's just crazy. You look at stuff like that and it's like, yeah, it could just be a rock, but it sure has a lot of crazy similarities.
Sounds a lot like our buddy from Mud Fossil.
Exactly. Yeah. Same type of thing.
Love
Of course,
him. Yeah.
the Mud Fossils guy has taken, some of those rocks and claimed that he has had them DNA
He
tested.
surely does. DNA, electrospectrographed, whatever, you name it, he's had the test run. He says pieces of lung, pieces of tissue. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And it comes back as human, which is just wow.
There were giants in the earth in those days, I believe I've read somewhere.
Mind blowing. Someone posted a few days ago, how the giant trees on Earth, where they're chopped off?
Yep.
Someone said they could be like your ankles.
A foot. That's right. I mean, that's the guy from Mud Fossil.
Just when you thought you heard it all?
Yeah, Roger's got some interesting stuff. I've put out feelers to see if he would come on, but I get the impression he doesn't do many people's shows. So
no, he just doesn't like flat earthers.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. Many of the shows I would associate with people's shows, right? So
Yeah, and he talked to me once several years ago, and we had a really nice, cordial conversation for,
Seems like a great
gosh,
guy.
yeah, a couple hours and stuff. And I was going to have him on Globebusters, and then I never really got around to it. And then all of a sudden, I heard he had developed quite the attitude against flat earthers, and it's like, well, okay, I guess I won't be asking Roger on. But yeah, I don't know why he's doing that unless he just doesn't want his work discredited, by association with flat earthers. But
Right.
who knows?
It's not good to associate with the truth, Bob.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. It's really sad though.
Isn't it?
That questions it as well. And I think that's the most important. You should be allowed to question anything, right? And if someone tells you not to question it, then you should question it even more. And that's as simple as that. Like if I say to my wife, if I went to the pub, when it opens, and I disappeared for a day or two, and she said, "Where you been, Billy?" And I went, "Oh, don't worry about it." It was just that. But it closes at 10 p.m. Oh, don't worry about it. Like you got to question it, right? At a micro level and a macro level. And some people can't do it. Some people can't do either. Some people will live with a partner who is cheating on them and they know it. You know what I mean? That's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's like because it's comfortable for them and they don't want to break that. They don't want to change. People, in business, I remember I'd write business plans and they were really adaptive. Like you have to change a lot of people's processes, right? They're currently doing this, so you've got to change that. And if you go to a venture capitalist with that, they'll go, there's too many changes involved. We need gradual. People don't like change. We need something that's smooth and innovative, they call that, So it's, I don't know if there's a word, play there, but it's all about that, isn't it? They know how the mind works, and changing someone from the globe earth to a flat earth is a huge freaking thing.
They need a tiptoe. The totalitarian tiptoe as someone who got banned.
Yeah, so you need to learn how your eyes work. So if you can prove to someone on the, straight away on the outset that do parallel lines converge, they'll go, oh, no, never, because they'll put that on paper and they never converge. But you go stand on a railway line, well, what's happening there? They're converging, aren't they? And you go, well, is that real in the rest of your reality? Deny it. You do it. And sometimes it takes people 6 months. Sometimes it takes people 2 years, because I've had those apologies 2 years later. And sometimes they'll never get it at all. So you work them out, drop some seeds along the way, teach them how their eyes work. Because what about when you realize how your eyes work? That was a huge thing for me. I ignored it. Even though it was there, it's there. Everything converges. My garage is doing it now, my driveway, longer distances, but globe earthers ignore that. They bring up refraction, gravity, before they learn how their eyes work. And
Zach, you did a video on how your eyes work, didn't you?
Yep.
Did I just steal your thunder, Walt?
Brilliant.
Yeah, I did quite a few videos on that, and well, just not how your eyes work, but I got in depth with how any light passing through a circular aperture works. So it's your eyes, cameras, telescopes, they all act the same way, and the fact that they're passing through that circular aperture makes them all act in a similar way.
Fuck it. It's not even 11 o'clock in the morning, but I'm going to do it.
I'm with you, Billy. Although I'm in my window of night time here.
Happy birthday, Bob. I'm doing it for you. I'm drinking a Furphy. And that's actually my book. So if you read my character, Max, he goes to the pub and he drinks his favourite beer called Furphy. And a Furphy is a fib, they say. It's a lie. There was a company here and they're called Furphy. The family name is Furphy, and they used to make bats, for farmers or whatever, and then they turned to brewing. So it's a really good beer. Cheers to everyone.
That's a beer I haven't tried. I do like Victoria beer because I'm a bit of a bit of a bogan myself, but but since it's 12 o'clock at night here, nearly, I'm with you. I'm with you on the beers.
Awesome.
I-
Yes. And cheers to you, Billy. Thanks for that.
all the best, man.
Happy
I hope
birthday to me.
I hope I can have a beer with you one day. I'd love that. That would be my dream. Oh, I actually had a dream a few weeks ago, so it wasn't
That's
a weird dream. I think we were at a pub at that time, so that was all good, you know. Is that when you dream of someone like you? Yeah, but hey,
now,
you know,
Billy. Were you at any of the U.S. conferences at all?
I haven't been yet. I can't wait to. I think I'm going to do. If they open up the borders and we can travel again, I'll even take the vaccine to come and visit America. I'm going to do it.
Wow.
Jeez, don't do that, man.
I don't know if I would do that.
It's not
Yeah,
working.
no, I'll
I
wait
love
till
you, Bob, but I'm not getting jabbed for you, brother.
Yeah, no, I'll wait. They could. I'll have the second stage. But you know what? We're in IT, so I've spoken with a few IT guys, and they reckon they can create a bypass whatever they do anyway. So don't worry. Just we shouldn't stress. My sister, she's a major. Oh, but we won't be able to. Just let it be. You really think they're gonna win? Guess who wins? God wins, man. And if we're with God, we win too, right? Just have faith, and you can't worry. Like even in business, if you worry all the time, you're not productive. Trust in God. Trust not the plan, our plan, not their plan.
Those are actually really wise words. Yeah, because I have to admit, and I know I'm not the only one in this boat, but this whole COVID thing and understanding, what I do about the elite and what their agenda actually is. And I think, we all know what it is without me having to say it, is a little disturbing, right? So my biggest thing is my concern for what might happen with my friends and most of all my family. Me,
Yeah.
I'm kind of tertiary, but my friends and my family, I'm really concerned about.
Absolutely, Bob. And I've spent most of this year telling those most close to me, I don't care about the rest. Yeah, I'll make posts on Facebook trying to just trying to enlighten people, or drop some seeds if you like. But with my parents, straight away, I was like, I said straight up to my dad, more people are going to die from suicide. I'm going to get emotional. In Australia than from COVID. And that freaking happened.
Mhm.
Melbourne, 4,000 people committed suicide. 800 people, old people, 80, 90, not old. I love old people, just as much as, because they're the ones with the wisdom we can't get rid of, you know what I mean? But, if I'm old, if I'm 90 years old and I had to choose over do I live or a 15-year-old? I'll take me away so the 15-year-old can live. But we had people that committed suicide here, man. And I've had 3 friends that died this year. Not from COVID, it's bullshit.
Well,
Right.
inadvertently from COVID, no doubt, because
You're right.
this is
There's gonna be
responsible
hell
for
to
it.
pay, man.
There will
Yeah,
be
it's gonna
hell to pay. You
gonna be
you mentioned your book. I'd like to lighten the subject a tad here before we completely spin off the rails. But can you tell us about your book? Because Zach's read it. I haven't had a chance. I must admit. Are you mainly Facebook or?
Zach, I just realised you're the tall guy with the beard. Is that right? Or
Who's that?
That's him. Uh-huh.
Zach
I
is,
think
yeah.
I think you gave me a really good review. Is that right? Did you read the book?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think you said was almost a 5 out of 5, and that blew me away. And it's been hard this year because I wanted to get out and promote my book, but how do you do it with this?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, it was an interesting book because it was a fine line between, do I write educational piece? This is what Billy Zigouris thinks, or my full name, Bill Zigouris, or is it a novel? And it's so hard writing a novel, I must say. If you speak to writers, a novel is it'll bring emotions out because you're trying to find characters, and usually you'll connect those characters to people And that was what the book was about. It was about my journey finding out about the flat earth with my friend Sam, who we would have daily discussions. But there's no way the earth could be flat, is what we started with. But then you start researching and you start, as I said, you start learning how your eyes work, for God's sake. You know what I mean? That you'd never, I had to speak with optometrists, pilots, engineers, listen to the Globebusters channel almost every, like in Australia, that starts at 5 a.m. in the morning. So get up. Oh, you can't sleep because Globebusters are starting, Jaron is starting, all these shows. And it was a mental exercise like you could never imagine. But you get guided along the way. It's funny because sometimes I would be typing a word in the book and Bob would say that word, or Jaron, or anyone. I go, what the heck is going on here? The synchronicity was amazing, but it was about trying to take this debate that I had with this Sam character, trying to create an alter ego, because I'm not rich and I don't have the plan. I have the plans, but I don't have the money to fund an expedition. And, the funny thing is that as Flat Earth, we all, everyone's like got this grand plan on, getting a ship and you sail it to Antarctica and then you go and explore like an Admiral Richard Byrd journey. But would you really do that anyway? If I was rich, if I was a multi-millionaire, imagine someone, Richard Branson, would they do that? No, they wouldn't. What they would do, and I came up with an idea of what they called a pseudo satellite. So it's a high altitude pseudo satellite. You've probably seen with the big planes with the solar wings, and you could set those and forget it. So that was the plan. And you'd think by now, 2020, someone would have really done that to go around the ball, right? So my book is about trying to expand the mind on probably finding more land. That's what it's about, I think there's hidden land on Earth. I think they lied to us. Like, where do they go? So the Australian, I'm waffling now, but the Australian federal minister, he's the finance minister for Australia. His name is Josh Frydenberg. Look him up. The day after he got elected, guess where he went? Antarctica. He went there and then came back the same day, which means it's really not that far, because if he can go there, stay there 2 hours and come back to Antarctica from Melbourne, that's like not far at all. But why would you even do that anyway? Let's say you got elected as a federal minister, where would you go? Antarctica?
Well, same as Kerry and the head of the Russian church.
4 years ago, Kerry, during the day of the election, he was here. He was there in Antarctica. Somebody else, one of the other candidates, like you said, the Pope, the Black Pope, whatever.
Yeah, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church or whatever, he's been down there. Tons of people have been down there. Well, even that the guy claimed he flew around the moon. He went down there and has
probably have to pay homage to the Queen of the South.
Metallica jammed there under a dome.
That's right. That's right.
What? Whoa! Back up.
Oh shit! No, I didn't know Metallica jammed under the dome. Yeah, that was, when was that, Josh? You pulled that up not long ago. Do you remember what year it was?
It was a while back. I could pull it up again, I'm sure.
Yeah, they did. They jammed under a dome. I think it was one of the big MTV promotions, maybe.
Why did you look that up? I was
in Australia.
No.
I meant Antarctica.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's nuts.
They wanted to claim the prize for performing on every continent or something like that. Yeah. I had a weird thought the other day, which I don't know. I should put out there. It was regarding the Titanic and how many rich people and everything were on the Titanic, and that we've all been persuaded that Titanic sank, and if it wasn't the Titanic then it was its sister ship, but something sank. What if that just headed south and buggered off?
You're right. And what about that lady, that pilot that went missing?
Gerhardt.
Yeah, it makes you, once you hear about flat Earth and you can, absorb it with, even if you don't believe it, at least consider an other option that we would never taught about at school.
Well, yeah, I guess she was complaining that the maps were wrong a lot, and she knew Admiral Byrd. There are pictures of them together, and more than one occasion.
Could it be that they found other land? What about JFK and all? Not JFK. What about that flight that went missing? Was it
MH370, wasn't it?
That's the one. What about that guy?
Yeah, how do you lose well, I suppose it's quite easy in a world that doesn't have satellites zipping around all over the Pacific or what was it, the Indian Ocean that went down in or whatever, but still.
Yeah, because that would have been about 2014, and I don't know if it was a flat Earth. It was like probably sitting on the fence at that stage. But I must admit that it made me question, like, how the heck do you lose a plane, like you just said?
Well, I imagine we've got satelloons everywhere. These things a plane would leave a heat signature behind. We have Navy ships all over the world. Then you don't just lose a plane and then never find any part of it ever. I mean,
you don't. Just like you don't destroy technology to go to the moon. You just don't do that.
And there was someone on that plane, wasn't there, with a patent or something that involved Rothschild. Maybe that was his payoff. Okay, you get to go to the outside world.
You got to wonder when these, like, straight away, that came out a week later, so nothing happened from it. Anyway, sometimes I think, you know what they do? They put truth out there, but it's just to muddy up the waters. And I reckon, could they? Was it about the patent? Who knows? Do they need to do that to hide a patent? Destroy a whole plane? Not really. So
I mean, again, why would they even publicize losing a plane if it was legitimately going somewhere? Same with Titanic. They could just name it whatever they wanted and disappear it. I mean, it strikes me as we're being played to waste our time, sort of thing, or
in a way, doesn't it? Yeah. Maybe that
lots
was
of distractions. Lots of distractions.
Well, I remember hearing there were some very bright-minded people on that plane as well. Some scientists from certain fields and this and that, and I think so.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Maybe they figured it out and buggered off. Get out of here.
Yeah, probably, and took the most expensive piece of technology we had in the day with them.
Right. Well, not to derail things, but I see we've had a few super chats show up. Commercial sound and video sent us some vibes earlier. Thank you so much. Liz gave us a piece of cake. Thank you, Liz. And then the great Baldini let us know that Mac should be home for dinner. So great to hear, Mac. Flat Earth Fokker, if you're not aware, there's a lot going on, has been going on, but Mac is back. So thank you so much for that.
And not to derail it any further, but Billy, can you give us the name of your book and where people can get it?
Yeah, it's called The Elusive Curve. That's probably coming in reverse, but The Elusive Curve.
It's good.
You can go to my website, elusivecurve.com. Actually, if you enter the code, if you do want to purchase a copy, Zigg, during checkout, you get a 25% discount. Or you can grab a copy on Amazon, and it's on most bookstores and that.
Nice.
But yeah, or if you want to email me at billyzigg@gmail.com, I'm happy to send you a free PDF of the ebook version. So that way it doesn't cost you anything.
Well, that's bloody generous of you.
That's awesome, left and right. Number one, thank you for the discount to the viewers and everybody here. Appreciate that. And then the awesome PDF. You rock. Thank you, brother.
That's amazing. How many people have taken you up on that?
On the free version, I get like a couple of I shouldn't it's probably 5 a week, if I balance it out, one a day sort of. And it's good when people, just random strangers, reach out to you. I've had mathematicians from Sweden or Germany and all over the place just go, they're not flat earthers, but they want to learn. And writing a book was probably a good way of, you can privately give information to someone, right? Do you know what I mean? But I remember when I first got into Flat Earth, the last thing I wanted in my browser history or any of that was Flat Earth, this, that, because then you get and then it gives you suggestions. So I used to go on incognito mode because I didn't want, I'm a businessman. I didn't want to lose all of that. And
can I ask what you do for a living? Don't have to tell us if you don't want to.
I'm a web developer for like 20 years. Prior to that, I've done so many jobs. You know that jack of all trades, master of none?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's me. But you know what they didn't? Do you know that they didn't actually tell us the whole statement? So if you Google it, it actually goes, jack of all trades, master of none is better than being a master of one, right? You think about that. Let's say you're just an astrophysicist. You don't know how to freaking do your garden. You don't know how to weld. You don't know how to do what? Create,
Great point.
Wire up some, two wires together and make them and know where positive and negative is, or you can't use a lathe or a drill, but it's one, and that's being a master of one. But the whole saying, if you look it up, jack of all trades, master of one, is better than being a master of. Oh, sorry. I said the right one first. Now I'm like George Bush going,
and let's face it, anyone is better than an astrophysicist because all they do all day is dream.
After one beer.
that what is it? Flurfies.
Furphy, yeah. But, so we were taught to, we're actually compartmentalized, aren't we, from the very beginning? What are you going to be? What about if I want to learn a bit of everything? Well, that's not productive in work, is it? You can't get a job or a career doing that.
Well, you sound like the sort of person that if you got a problem around your house or whatever, and it needs welding, then you go out and you look at how to weld and teach yourself and buy a welder and do it yourself.
I've done a lot of jobs. So I used to be a fitter and turner, which is like a mechanical engineer in my early days, and I've done so many jobs in between. But now I'm a webmaster now, so I look after people's websites, do search engine optimization.
I used to be a webmaster.
Yeah, nice one. So I run an SMS business. I've had that for about 15 years, where businesses send SMS to each other. That's pretty much if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to do what I do, because that's my residual income that I set up. And, it's a lot of money, but every month it's like my savior. It's like, I don't need to... I don't even need to sell books, actually. I don't,
Bob, of course, is a communications or IT engineer as well.
Yeah, nice one.
Sorry, carry on.
I've done a lot of different things, but the last 20 years I ran an IT business in Denver, doing computer networks, Novell, Microsoft, Apple, all that stuff. But before that, I did communications engineering, RF, almost everything, two-way radio, cellular, satellite, microwave, paging.
That's where you've got your broad knowledge as well, Bob. And I've listened to and I think, how does he do that? And that's because you've got this broad experience in so many different sectors that you connect the dots at the end of the day, don't you? You sort of wonder, why am I doing this job at some stages of your life? But then later it's like, that's why I did that, because now I can continue on with my...
Yeah, but it's even more than that. I mean, and I've heard a lot of people with the same story, but, one day, literally out of the blue, I just started researching everything I could get my hands on. And it didn't really matter what the subject matter was. I was just, I had this thirst for trying to figure out everything. And I really had no idea why, right? And granted, it was partially in relation to my so-called conspiracy theory, analysis and, learning about that, because you really do. When you start going down these roads, you have to learn a little bit about the industries that you're investigating and all kinds of stuff like that. So, and then at one point, it just kind of all comes together, and I realized it's like, wow, something was telling me way back when to do this.
And Bob, how much of your knowledge would you say has increased since flat Earth? I mean, I know mine's just gone exponential, and Billy as well. As a question to you, I mean, it sends you in so many different directions, so many roads and paths, and having to learn everything about everything pretty much.
Exactly.
To the point where you argue with ballers and they're like, you've just got an answer for everything. And you're like, yeah, well, actually, that's taken thousands of hours of research.
Yeah, I spent the last 6 years researching this shit.
Yeah, and Coriolis effect. You've got to spend 1 year researching something that doesn't exist to prove it wrong, right? Because if you write something wrong in your book, someone goes, "Oh, you know." So that's the, you know, and even what you're doing, Bob, like you're putting yourself online, and people can, "Oh, that moved 15 degrees," oh, you know, and like, come on, man, you go do it yourself, then, right? You
Right.
you do it yourself, or give Bob the Nobel Peace Prize, or you know whatever it is for technology. There's got to be some award they can give you by now, Bob. Right? You know?
I definitely, yeah, I'm still waiting for that Nobel Prize and the $1 million that goes along with it. You
Oh,
know,
wow. Should have been a big party this year.
absolutely. But no, they didn't want to. They didn't. You know, I'm a liar when it comes to everything else in the world, except when I talk about, you know, something that they perceive as a discovery that no other person in the history of science or mankind has ever done. They think that I'm claiming it, and then they believe me.
Apart
And they've
from
never,
110 years ago when it was common knowledge.
Right.
exactly. And they've never done it themselves to claim that prize over you as well. Like, let's do it 3 times as a scientific method. I remember at school, that was at least the simplest thing in science you could do. Do it 3 times, right? Because yeah, that was the simplest thing you could do. Your teacher said that 3 times at least. Because if it doesn't work 3 times, well, you could be on a. But none of these people have done it. No one's reproduced any of that shit.
And then
No one's
go the extra mile and do it at different altitudes, and you can show yourself that it's complete nonsense.
exactly. Yeah. At different locations around the world as well, shouldn't you?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I find really amazing is, you know, a lot of the trolls will come in and say, oh yeah, well, there's, you know, they'll send me an article on somebody that just built a huge, ginormous laser interferometer, right? And they said, so this is built specifically to detect the rotation of the Earth. And it's like, yeah, and you know what? It's going to detect a rotation, but it's not the Earth. And the problem with it is because it's so ginormous and huge, you can't move it on the Z-axis. And if you can't move it on the Z-axis, then it's worthless.
And how
Because
long and straight is it?
yeah, that's what.
Flat.
Yeah, you've got to be able to move it up and down, you know, plus and minus 10,000 feet, so you can actually see what, you know, this rotation is doing at different altitudes. And that's how we were actually able to prove it was not Earth rotation, you know, with the fiber optic gyro.
Yeah, you should be measuring the parallax, is what you're basically measuring. If you move it upwards from the z-axis, you would actually measure a variation. And also, if we do have an equatorial bulge, it should be different there if you measured it, as opposed to the North Pole, South Pole. But they don't take anything, and they don't. Globe Earthers don't do experiments. And do you know how many people I've deleted because of trying to say that Bob proved the 15-degree rotation? Oh, Bob, it's been one of my favorites, to be honest.
Yes, everybody gets that. And actually, I was talking on Discord with a group of guys last night, and there's a couple of graphic artists because, you know, what I wanted to do for quite some time now, so that I don't have to keep explaining how, you know, we were able to devise a method to show people that what the fiber optic gyro was measuring was not Earth rotation. And what, you know, and of course our claim is that it's measuring the luminiferous ether and the vortexual behavior of it, right? And there's a lot of history and a lot of information on it, and we were able to devise a method that was really quite simple to prove just that it was not measuring Earth rotation at all, because, you know, doing these tests that we did it at over a 10,000 foot variance in altitude on the same latitude line. And when we did that, we had a greater than 1 degree variance, 1 degree per hour variance rotation rate, which is, it came out to be, I think, like 32 degrees per day, which of course completely destroys the idea of it being Earth rotation, right? So, but people need they need a graphic representation so that they can actually see and get in their mind the idea of what we did, because it's really quite a simple concept, but it's something that really would help if we had graphic representation on it.
Well, just to clarify that for anyone who can't hear it, sorry, Billy, the altitude thing, if it had been a spinning Earth ball rock thing in space, then it wouldn't have mattered what altitude you had it at, because it would always register 15 degrees per hour rotation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, at that latitude, at the same latitude.
At the same latitude, exactly. So like on the spoke of a wheel, if you measure the degrees of rotation near the hub, it'll measure, let's say 15 degrees, and then if you went out on that spoke to the edge, it would still measure 15 degrees, but the velocity,
it's a rate. Actually, it's a rate. At that point, it's because there's going to be a different speed as you get out towards the outside edge. Obviously, the edge velocity keeps increasing.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you have to make this theoretical compensation for Earth spin. But yeah, and like I said, the concept itself is really simple, and I can, if you want, I can go through it really quick with you, or if you're sick of it, I won't. But the explanation of how we disproved Earth rotation is really simple.
Go for it, because I probably just butchered it.
Okay. All right. So what we did, okay, there's two schools of thought on this. One, of course, is the ballers, and they're saying, well, you measure the 15 degrees per hour Earth rotation. The alternate school of thought is our claim, which is that we are measuring the luminiferous ether and its rotational rate. Okay, so the thing that we did, then we devised a method to prove this. And what we did is, if you are on a ball Earth, right, if you're on a spinning globe and you go to one point, let's just say on the equator, let's keep it simple, on the equator, and we measure that rotational rate on the equator, right, and it comes out to be about 15 degrees per hour, right, theoretically, because 15 degrees per hour times 24 hours is 360 degrees, right? So there you have your 15 degrees per hour. And so it shouldn't matter if we take those measurements at sea level or if we climb to the highest mountain, as long as we remain on the equator or on that same latitude line, right? The rotation rate should be absolutely identical, right? Um, Whereas if you are testing for the luminiferous ether and you understand that the ether is said to be propagating much like a toroidal magnetic field, right? Which is a vortex essentially, right? So think of it like a tornado. And you have the top of the tornado that's spinning very slowly. And then as you come down the z axis, down towards the bottom, down towards the ground, it spins faster and faster and faster and faster, right? So that's of course what we are saying that it is. So what we did is we went to Pikes Peak, Colorado, and we took our measurements at Pikes Peak, which is at an elevation of 14,125 feet. And we got our measurements. And by the way, we did this over and over and over again, not just there, but in several places. And then what we did is we went, because Colorado is such an ideal place to do this, we went directly east of Pikes Peak, which takes you out onto the plains of Colorado, on the exact identical same latitude line, except we were down to just a shade over 4,000 feet. So we had nearly a 10,000 foot variance on the z-axis or in elevation, okay? And what happened is that there was a greater than 1 degree per hour variance in that rotational rate. And of course, if you add that up, like I said, it was like 1.3 or 1.4. It came out to be around 30 to 31 degrees per day of rotational rate change, right? Well, that right there tells you that there's no way that it could possibly be a spinning globe Earth, because it wouldn't change at all. But if you look at it in terms of how a vortex propagates, and you think about the tornado, and you've got the top of it turning really, really slow, and as you get down towards the bottom, going faster and faster and faster, then you have that higher rotational rate, right? So what's happening is it is behaving just like the vortex, and it is not behaving at all like something that would be a spinning ball in Earth, in
Boom.
space. Boom,
Boom.
and that's it. It's over. We killed it.
Yeah, I love that. And do you reckon they could have factored that into the equipment? Do you know what I mean? So shouldn't do you know what I'm saying? As simple
Yeah,
as
I know
that.
exactly what you're saying. Yes, and in fact, they do factor it on some level. Now, let me tell you what.
Never thought someone like you would test it.
Right. Well, they actually openly admit it. Inside now, fiber optic gyros and ring laser gyros are used inside of a piece of equipment that most airliners use called an inertial reference system, right? And the inertial reference system uses the ring laser gyro, and it has a module called the ACM, the alignment calibration module. And this is the module where when the pilots calibrate up their ring laser gyros, that they have to be absolutely steady. They have to enter in their latitude and longitude, and then they have to keep the plane absolutely steady and not moving. In fact, they don't even want people boarding the plane, for fear of moving it around. And then what that does is that gives them the sample rate of the rotational velocity of the ether, right, that's going on at that spot. And from that point, NASA, of course, has got it all mapped out all over the world, what these vortexual rotation rates are. And then using that as a correctional database, they can navigate and know exactly right down to the gnat's ass where that plane is, right? And that's why you had, like, Mark Sargent had the airline pilot that came on and said, yeah, we had a problem with our ACM, and we didn't know what to do. They weren't going to make the flight go, so they called into the manufacturer, and of course it came back that NASA actually made this particular piece of equipment, and they said, well, no, just go ahead and call in and do manual corrections. Well, there really weren't any corrections that had to be done because it had kept its calibration, right? And so they had no issues with it. But that is something, like I said, that's built into the inertial reference units, as part of the navigation system for airliners. But and they've known about this the whole time. And not only that, without the luminiferous ether, you couldn't have what's called the Sagnac effect. And the Sagnac effect is, of course, the interferometry pattern, the interference pattern that arises when you get a phase shift in the lasers, going in opposite directions, right? That's actually what the Sagnac effect is. And that's why it is so incredibly accurate, because you're dealing literally with phase changes in a light that has a wavelength of like 450 nanometers. So needless to say, it's precise as all get out. So yeah, they know about it. They've always known about it. And they're on the right track when they say, well, we're going to build a really, really big one, because the bigger you build these laser interferometers, the more resolution you'll be able to get out of it, because you can actually make the laser path longer and longer and longer, right? So you have more resolution there. But the problem is that rate is never going to change, because if you can't move it around to different locations and see where that's going to be changing, or elevations, then it becomes worthless, right? So that's why I laugh at people that say, oh, we've got this huge interferometer that's going to show you all you flat earthers that it's like, no, it's not. It's going to measure a rotation, I'll give you that.
And evidence for them knowing this, and clearly knowing this forever, has been flight manuals, training manuals, NASA manuals, all stating that this is based on a stationary non-rotating plane.
Yes,
I mean, how do you train an airline pilot to fly around a spinning ball that can go up to 1,000 miles at the equator, and only train them on something that is a stationary non-rotating plane? It's just nonsense at this point, almost as much nonsense as the COVID bullshit.
Absolutely, and most of them rely on electronic equipment, so they're not relying, on a mechanical device, which is you can, as Bob just proved, they could factor in that into and they would, as if they wouldn't do that. But a friend of mine is a pilot and is a non-commercial pilot. Is a light aircraft pilot. He flies at 10,000 feet. And man, that guy relies on every instrument in his, equipment panel and with his hands and his eyes and the gyro to understand what is happening. And, he's told me he lives in it's a town about 500 kilometers west of Sydney. And when he's flying on a clear day, he can see Sydney, from 10,000. So, and that made him question, because, when I told him about flat Earth, who do you call when you find out flat Earth? You're going to call all your friends, like, what do you think? What do you think? Yeah.
I can't wait to get back to Sydney, because my in-laws, they live quite high, quite elevated, and it looks out west over Australia. They're just outside. Where are they? In Blacktown.
Over the Blue Mountains.
That's right, yeah. And I always stood out on the balcony before I knew any of this, and I could see water towers and stuff off in the distance. And I'd love to get out there again. Unfortunately, I don't think I ever will, unless things start really changing. But yeah, I'd love to get out there and start making some measurements and just testing this, because it's everywhere around us. All you got to do is open your eyes, open your fucking brain. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
We had Rob Durham on not long after he had started breaking down the gyroscope, and then need to check back in and see where all that's gone, I guess.
No, I can tell you where it's gone. Rob is a member of FE Core, and we recently, about 6 months ago, bought a gyro compass, right? Because the ballers come back and say, oh yeah, well, debunk the gyro compass, because the gyro compass's claim to fame is that you turn it on and it automatically finds north. And they say that it does that primarily because the Earth is spinning, right? And it's detecting this inertial change on the Earth. Now, we have quite a different take on that, obviously, but we're still doing some tests on this. But I can assure you it is not finding north because the Earth is rotating.
Excellent. I was so hoping you were going to talk about gyro compasses and yeah, Rob Durham. I haven't heard from him for a long time. I hope he's doing well. I sent him a message on Skype probably about 6 months ago. But yeah, it's yeah. I'd love to know more about this gyro compass and how it.
It's very interesting. Sorry to interject, but
no, cool.
I wrote about this in my book, and the Bolivian salt flats, or Salar de Uyuni, whatever they call them. It's the elevation 80, the flattest place on Earth, they call it, and that's where they calibrate their equipment. So why would you calibrate a gyro over a flat surface? Wouldn't you choose something that was spherical? It makes you really question everything, doesn't it? And look that up. Just Google. I tell you what I googled: salt flats calibration. The first thing you're going to get up: science.slash.org. Then from Nature. Then NASA. NASA actually tells you about the Bolivian salt flats, and that's where they calibrate their equipment over a flatter surface of it. Why would you do that? Would you do that?
Well, this is why I love the mechanical gyroscope. That's where I sort of cut my teeth on this thing, was and the way that everyone attacked it, saying, yeah, you've used a toy, you've used a toy gyroscope, etc., etc. But this thing had, it was a precision gyroscope that revolved at 18,000 RPM, was calibrated to within I think it was a thousandth of an inch.
Is it the same one I have, John?
Yeah, more than likely. More than likely.
Yeah,
I was
it was like
talking.
the $400 gyro that the company that sells it has their two boys playing with it and stuff. It's Precision Gyro.
Yes.
Zach makes his videos with it.
Yeah.
And it'll spin up, and it will spin for over 30 minutes, right?
Oh yeah.
And there's absolutely no drift to it whatsoever. It doesn't drift at all. And there was quite a kerfuffle that kind of arose in the FE community when Stefan kept getting drift out of his mechanical gyro, right? And we're sitting there going, what the hell is going on here? And it turned out, I mean, that really had us going for a while, but it turned out that depending on the spin rate, you would have different levels of torque, right? And if you got it to the higher RPMs, it would actually torque itself and cause itself to turn, a little bit. And if you played with it, you could kind of get it to give you an earth rate rotation, but it had to be at a very specific, spin up speed, right? But all that was happening was that, you have a torque friction, you have a bearing friction, right? Which will create a slight torque because of the resistance in the bearings, which will cause the gyroscope to drift just a little bit. And when you have that much mass that's spinning around at that heavy speed, I mean, it blew our mind. We're like going, what the hell is going on here? And then we finally figured it out,
Yeah.
But wow. So yeah, I mean, you find out a lot of stuff, but you
gotta cherry pick those results though to say that it's spinning at 15 degrees, surely, haven't you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you have to switch it in directions, and you have to time it to say, okay, here's my start time and my cutoff time. And in this particular window that I measured it, well, I got it to about that 15 degrees per hour.
I mean, it's about as reliable as a Foucault pendulum, to be honest.
It's not.
yeah. But this is what I loved about it, is that, everyone was saying, well, that's a tiny little toy, it's ridiculous. And then Rob Durham stripped down the, what do they call them, the bearing, no, it's the head up, it's the horizon.
Oh, the heads up display. Artificial horizon.
Artificial horizon, but they call it something. Oh, and the bearing indicator, is it? I'm trying to regurgitate all these flying terms.
Heading indicator, right?
Heading indicator, yeah.
Which is of course a gyroscopic device.
That's right.
It's constantly corrected, because otherwise you would dead reckon using that all the time, because rigidity in space, right? So what they do is, as you fly along, you're constantly recaging that device, and calibrating it with the compass.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because the compass, of course, has the magnetic declinations, and you're always flying with reference to north, and that's the one thing that the ballers can't seem to get through their heads.
Yeah. And he was the one that tore down a bearing indicator, and it was literally the size of a golf ball. The gyro in it, that keeps that plane from crashing into the sky or flying off into imaginary space. It was the size of a golf ball, and the precision ones we have are about twice the size of that. So everyone who was whinging about how big the precision gyroscope was and that it was just a toy can sod off, really.
Well, yeah, not only that, look at the size of Foucault's. It wasn't that much difference in size. In fact, I would call it fairly comparable in size to our precision gyros that I have and that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the original Foucault gyroscope that supposedly actually registered the 15 degree per hour, conveniently has come up missing, right? What a coincidence.
Yeah.
But the reality is it was still about the same size, and the ballers, of course, have latched onto that. That's now a piece of history that Leon Foucault, proved that 15 degrees per hour with the mechanical gyro, and it's like, great. Then why haven't we been able to prove it again ever since then? Even with our 21st century gyroscopes, right?
Exactly.
Especially without, bringing in magnets and electricity, and just do it on the simplicity that he did it, and let's test it. And what about, we should test that around the world as well, or around the world. And, that's an interesting thing because we say around the world, but we also say look around you, yeah, or not just looking around you, but we've confused that and leading assumptions. I think if you had a gyro and you thought this was going to prove your ball, you could actually use that for that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, like our buddy Josh used to say, I can go around my neighborhood. That doesn't make it a globe.
That's right.
Looking back on some of the older tech, I mean, wasn't one of the first gyros some big, huge device they had to spin up with some kind of machine, John? I think you talked about that. I know getting you to pull that out of your memory banks would be tough, but
I'm not familiar with that. I'm not familiar with that.
It must have been one of those off the air shows you don't remember. I'll find it. I'll dig it up. Or even was it Newton's telescope with the little tiny eye hole? I mean,
not sure. D-True says attitude indicator.
Provers of all the stuff that was proven, like Foucault's. I mean, it's just a joke if you go look at the reality of it all.
And they could probably bedazzle people so easily back then. Like if you were Newton and everyone else is starving at home and trying to think of where to get bread and butter the next day, but you're there and you've explained, everyone would be like, wow, he's a genius.
But, they're still bedazzling us today, like Elon Musk and NASA and everything else.
Perfect. That's our modern age man, isn't it? And I saw an image yesterday. They said that they did a computer image of God, and it looked like Elon Musk's face. Like, give me that God, he can't even
tie his shoelaces.
Where the camera is pointing, when he's on an interview. Like, where's the camera? Well, where is it? Oh, I don't know. Where do I look right now? It's like there. How stupid is this man and he's got a godlike status actually with a lot of men that have a bromance with him. They love him. He could shit on them and excuse me, but they'd be like, oh, that's okay, Elon,
He reminds me of a sort of upgraded Stephen Hawkins where they don't have to stick him in a chair where he talks gibberish. He actually forms sentences, but still mainly talks gibberish.
Yeah, I watched yesterday. It's funny that you brought up Stephen Hawking because I was watching The Big Bang Theory, that TV show, and I still love that show. Call me whatever, because they disclose a lot of things. One of the things they would disclose that they don't know what the Higgs boson is. They don't know anything, and they would tell you like there's still these nerds are trying to work it out. But there was yesterday's episode was Stephen Hawking, and they kind of discredit him. If you read between the lines, you could either be a hero and go, "Oh, Stephen Hawking," but if you listen to what they're saying, they don't even know.
But you know why, Billy? You know why, don't you?
Dark energy and everything else.
He was a flat earther.
Who was?
Stephen Hawkins.
Really?
Before he got stricken down, Walt, talk about this. Someone talk about this who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, it was actually a PBS article, and he had a flat universe theory. He said we were sitting on something hot, and there was something cold pressing down on it, and we live in the crust in between it. It had a picture of a petri dish with like little mountains filled with water with little mountains coming out of it, and he said that is where we live.
Wow.
Is that called Flatland or no? That was
Sagan.
Yeah, wasn't it? He wrote the book Flatland. Really? So is that when they put him in a wheelchair?
Probably about the time he got it, right?
I'm sure we can hear from the man himself. But...
when did that happen, Stephen? How'd that... I was wrong off a couple of years. Yeah.
We're going to hell.
I've dug up an interesting PDF on the history of gyroscopes from U.S. what is it, US Dynamics Core, but it's not what I'm looking for. But I'll give it to you guys because it is pretty interesting.
It's probably on my blog. Long forgotten.
Very interesting.
Something about this year that's just totally I don't know,
Hey,
energized me.
Well, I was thinking about that, about this year, and I'm going to put a positive spin to it. Have you learned anything this year? Have you? I have. I've learned about viruses. I've learned how bad the governments are, that 196 countries can lock down, boom, the world, just like that. Proving the new world order. Come on.
I've felt a lot of vindication this year for everything I've been saying for 2 decades. I felt vindicated.
We learned about exosomes. We learned about T cells. We've learned about virology. We've learned about the Spanish flu, which we never really thought about before, because as part of the equation of opening our minds. What else have we learned this year, guys? We've learned not to trust our government. We'll go put that always. If you're going to do
I learned that a long time ago.
That's going to be
a lot of new people have learned it, and it definitely reinforced it for those of us who had our suspicions.
Yes.
Wow, that's beautiful, sir. New people. I reckon this has opened up the minds of so many people. It's not even funny. And that's a beautiful thing. It's like an awakening. 2012, Hollywood tried to paint 2012 as an end time prophecy, the apocalypse. But we know now, and I thought that was real back then, but now I know that apocalypse means a lifting of the veil in Greek. Apocalypse, which is, in the Bible, the last chapter, Revelation. Well, in the Greek Bible, the last chapter is called Apocalypse. Actually is. Go look it up. Get a Greek Bible. And that chapter is all about the unveiling of the mind and what's been happening.
Absolutely.
And we could have is it 2012 right now or 2020? Is it 1012 or 1020? Who even knows? But all we know is what's written is what we're going through, and that's freaking amazing.
One thing I learned this year, Billy, that frankly does surprise me, because I thought if there was anything that was legitimate in the medical world, it was germ theory, right? Because it kind of makes sense. It's like, ooh, you get icky germs, you get sick, it's terrible and awful, and viruses, would propagate those germs, and after this year and really looking into this, I'm not 100% yet, but I'm really, really leaning towards the idea that germ theory is complete bullshit.
Me too, actually. And then it made me question, because I've got 3 boys who are now, older. Like my youngest is 20, then 24, then 27. I had my first when I was 21. So, but that was the good thing about it. I was young. I was 21, 22 when I first was born. And then a few years after, but they would snot on me. They would be sick all the time. I haven't had a flu since 1992. I'm not joking. Everyone in my family gets a cold. My wife will get it 4 times a year. The kids, but I never get it. And I'll tell you why. And it's probably a bad story. So I was smoking bongs, with my friends when I was about 18.
I know very well.
We don't know about that stuff.
I've heard
But they're all sick. They're all sick. They all had the flu. And they're like, oh, if you do this, you're going to get sick. And I put it in my mind. I went, I will not get the flu. I will not get the flu. And I must have said it 10 times before I had it. And didn't get the flu. And I haven't had it since, man, because it's a mental thing.
It's a state of mind.
Get a flu rip instead of a flu shot. You heard it right here.
I did smoke. I didn't inhale it, by the way. I blew it out.
It is psychosomatic. I think it's the incredible strength of placebos that we've seen. Test the vaccine against a placebo. They've never done it. They never will. Maybe in our new normal, which I'm looking at in a positive way, this is going to be the real normal, what life should have been like. if we weren't led by psychopathic, satanic pedophiles or whatever the hell they are, but we'll soon find out. But yeah, no, it's psychosomatic, and I've been researching health for about 20 years as well, and I sort of woke up. It was all after about 9/11, but I came across the virus myth years and years ago, which is why the sort of question I put to our resident pharmacist was, what is a virus? How have we seen it? Has it ever been shown to be pathogenic? And the answer is absolutely fucking no. No way.
Absolutely, man. And you brought up the placebo effect. And we all know that, the placebo, commonly used. Have you heard of the nocebo effect? Nocebo. Look that up. So it's the antithesis of that. And you can literally make yourself sick through the nocebo effect. So
yeah. Which is what they're doing to us right now.
Which is what they're doing. Absolutely, man. Yeah. They're like hypochondriac level. I was bad when my kids were young. Like if there was an escalator and the handrail was like, don't touch that. Don't. But I knew, I'd cough into my arm. I was very germophobic, protective of what I do, which is probably why I never got the cold anyway. But now we're going to be, kids won't be kissing their grandmothers, and, where they've taken this is like really inhumane, right? And they love it. That's what they're trying to do.
It's dark, and it's the mask thing as well that is tearing me. I read somewhere yesterday, I've got to say this now because it's a bit weird, that the latest trend in porn movies is not showing anyone's face. Anyone else read that?
Wow. Really?
No.
I've watched my first porn around 13 or 14 maybe. Do they make porn with people's face in it?
I think that was a 70s thing.
I don't know. Oh, that's funny. You've got to laugh, don't you? But that is weird, man. So that is the next trend. So no face involved.
Well, and you've got your VR goggles now, haven't you? And they're bringing them into schools, and everything is to hide the face, the facial expressions, or you can't talk to anyone now. You're not allowed to sing. You can't. I mean, it's dehumanization across the board, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And did you see that piece of equipment that apparently you can connect to your phone and you can kiss someone virtually, and it senses their signal in the phone? Like you're kissing a phone. It was like in Big Bang Theory. There was actually an episode where they did that. So what they put there, they're going to bring out try and bring out and stupefy people even more, man. I don't know. I'm worried. I'm worried.
They're gonna bring a whole new meaning to the term facial.
Oh, no, you're right, Bob. You're right. Never mind. They do make porn with faces in it.
So who wants to bring up elections? Go on, tell me what's happening in America, because I'm in Australia and we want to know. Like we can't even go news. Like there's nothing. I can watch new YouTube videos, the watermark, there's this and that.
I'll tell you, for me, Billy, it's like this.
I'll have to. Oh, go ahead.
I got attacked a few days ago for bringing up elections on my page. It's like, oh, you don't believe in that, but hey, Biden, no, I'm not gonna endorse that man ever, right? Ever. Trump,
what's wrong with Sniffy Joe?
Creepy Joe. So far,
exactly.
I made a prediction on election night on Mark Sargent's show, and so far it's held. I told Mark that what would happen is that all the networks would call off. Everything was going to be too close to call, and then all of a sudden allegations of fraud, election fraud, were going to start emerging. And so what I think is going to happen now is it's looking obviously that like Biden has got it, but they still haven't made that call yet, right? So I think what's going to happen is if they do make that call, then Trump's going to fire back and say, okay, we've got the goods on him with all this election fraud proof, and that is going to start a shitstorm of epic proportions. So
I think you're right, Bob. Actually, nailed it, man.
Yeah, we had intended, well, Josh
What
has
I
put the
said,
story,
that's-
and we never covered it this morning about watermarks and things like that. What was that,
But
Josh?
is
You
there any
probably know
proof
more
of
about
watermark? We've got to wait, apparently, because the Qs are going, oh, we said it was in the water. So apparently they first
it.
said
Trust the plan, man. Come on.
the Q said that it was the Great Gorges Dam in China or something that was going to break, and that would, flood 400 million people and kill them, and change the world economy. Now they instantly flipped on, no, it's the watermark on the ballot papers. So, but if I was Mr. Trump, and he's a freaking smart guy, come on, I've read his books when I was before it was he even, it was in 2000 actually. And if you remember the first guy that pointed to the towers in New York and said, that's fake, man, that's controlled demolition. It was actually Trump. So
Yeah, see, now that you're saying that, I did see somebody putting that. I have a lot of people I follow on Twitter that are constantly posting old stuff from 9/11, and that is one I have seen.
has he helped America? Because speaking with people in America, has he helped America or?
You're asking the wrong person here. Truly,
Yeah.
Bob is speaking more about it than I would, dude. I try to keep myself so unplugged from that machine because I watch it destroy
Yeah.
people.
I think
Intrigued. We're suffering anxiety here. I know people that are like, we don't get this info. So sorry,
Yeah.
Bob, please.
No,
I was
please,
gonna say,
absolutely.
I think that Trump has definitely done some good things. He's kept peace in places that normally would be war ridden, and I think a lot of any accomplishes that he has made has been largely buried by this media blitzkrieg to absolutely demonize him in every way, shape, and form. Now, I'm not saying that this isn't all part of the script, because obviously deep down inside I know it's all part of a script, but there are times, honestly, when it seems like there are two different factions that are fighting for control here. The battle is real,
I love yeah, me too. I think so too.
Some people would say that battle's been going on quite a while. At
I
least
agree.
at helm, if not earlier,
I've been researching conspiracy theories since 1996, right? So I'm no newie, and I hate it. They made me hate Trump. So here I am. He helped me write business plans. I read his books when the early like 2000. He wrote a brilliant book actually called.
While you're looking, Billy, I've noticed they did a job on Australia big time. Or every relative that we've spoken to of my wife's is Trump is absolute dog shit. He is complete and utter joke. And this was what we're getting from every Australian we know, pretty much.
That's what Australia. That's how they sold Trump. Like, not to mention, like, in 2000 or so, we had The Apprentice. So our station, Channel 9, Trump, and selling him off as the big hero. And you know what? It was so good because I reckon he sparked an entrepreneurial push in our country. Just that guy alone, that show. So that was well before he was going to decide to become for president. And then guess what made me hate him? When they said, he said, I could grab any woman by the pussy. And I hated him from that. I'm a married man. So I'm not grabbing my woman by there, you know what I mean?
Did he say that?
Yeah, he said it. And again, I'm like Bob. We all know it's part of the script and part of what he has to do to become the figure of the
women that were there.
It's funny how it's so it's funny how we get so triggered over a comment now. But if you watch the first Crocodile Dundee, where Paul Hogan went to that pub and he grabs the guy just to check, you know, if you tried to pull that movie off now, you'd have the leftists like going, "Don't do that! You can't do that." Yeah. So think about what we have gone through, and we've gone through this culture. What do they call it? Whatever these new terms are now that you can't even,
PC, politically correct, whatever, freaking righteous indignation.
I mean, I'm with Austin. Whitsitt gets it on this, and think he's a puppet, but I don't know. It's hopium. I like to be addicted to hopium, but I will see.
We have to. You've got to smoke some hopium occasionally.
I heard from a friend of mine the other day that there was an NBA Finals and that there's a new NBA championship. I wouldn't have known had I not talked to this particular friend. It had absolutely zero bearing on my life for all intents and purposes. And for me, that's a lot what the presidential election's like. I mean, derps are going to derp no matter what you're going to do. So no matter what puppets are putting out other puppets to put out other puppets to dance and play in the marionettes in front of us, it really, I don't care. Even if one puppet cuts the strings of the other and stands triumphantly over on its chest, and this is the winning puppet. I mean, some bitch ain't my puppet.
Yeah, and
the problem is though,
the one puppet happens to reach over and pull the puppet off the hand of the other puppet. There's a sock puppet. Oh no! I mean, it's a fucking show.
But
dude.
the problem is, it may be a show, but whoever wins in the softball finals or whatever is not going to affect your life. These utter cretins that keep voting,
until they come to my front door, John, they're not affecting my life.
You know what?
And absolutely, when they do come to my front door, I'll be affecting their lives.
Everyone sort of goes on about voting, because that's what I posted. Oh, go Trump! I said, last thing we want is Biden or Joe, child sniffer or whatever I said. And I got attacked on that. It's like, oh, you don't seriously vote, do you? You know what? There are other parties apart from the two, the red and blue ones. There are other. You could actually vote them out if we all freaking did it. So,
work together. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, we just go, hey man, let's get rid of those two that always have been voted in for the last 150 or 200 or whatever, how long you guys have been doing it for. Like, come on.
Well, that's how long they've been fixing it. I mean, what we're shown is, do you want Jack the Ripper or the Yorkshire Ripper? And it's like,
exactly. It's up to you guys to get a new candidate comes along, and you just got to go, F the system, right? Excuse me, just get them out and vote them out. Vote the bad guys out. That's all you have to do.
The system?
You can't vote. Well, give me a better system and I'll do it, right? Do it. Like, what do you want? Give me a better system than taxes. We should do it. Like, let's roll it in. We're in 2020. Come up with ideas rather than attack all the time,
But isn't voting actually perpetuating the system? Isn't that how you keep that system perpetuated?
I don't know, man. But all I know is if the next day they woke up and went, what? We didn't even get voted in? And some random person who was speaking truth, some non-person that was not a politician, someone that was a capitalist and could afford to do it, like a Trump sort of guy. Like, if we had a Trump in Australia, and there actually is, there's a guy named Ricardo Bossi. Look him up. Ricardo Bossi in Australia. He's not a millionaire, but he was ex-military, and mate, can this guy talk? And he's researched, and he knows the political system in Australia. And I hope we get I hope we get someone that is not going to be, just your blue and red party, which makes purple royalty, right? The giggle was there. You know what I'm talking about, John.
But is that hopium in itself? I mean, do we actually need someone to lead us? Do we actually, if we had a well-written constitution, would we need a leader?
Do we need God to lead us? We kind of do. So under that, you kind of have your people that are godly, and I don't know, man. I don't know, John. I need a bit of hopium right now. We might be.
I'm with you. I mean, we're seeing over in the UK rumours of arrest warrants going out for every single MP, that's Member of Parliament, for those outside the UK, that to put them under house arrest and charge them with genocide, treason, and fraud.
Wasn't I watching a live feed, maybe you shared, of that occurring, of them passing out and serving these people?
There have been numerous live feeds from every police district. They've all been served. My MP. Well, actually, I'm not going to talk about that because that would be far too focusing. But yeah, I love a bit of opium. But until I see these bastards being perp walked, as they say in the US.
You're not going to get hopium in the UK or Australia, mate. You're these guys. So I know, and it sounds crazy, but I love America. Always have. America is the place. They're the guys with the big guns, the big cars, and the big voice, and that's important, man. You know. And if they lose that, we lose. The rest of the world loses. So when I was talking about the Strong Cities Network, I'll segue it, right? Let's go back to the Strong Cities Network. Look up your city. If your city is part of that and they're growing every day, they've got 33 cities signed up so far.
Is that a UN thing? Is that a United Nations thing?
It's a Chinese thing, man.
Oh, jeez, right.
It actually started from London, I should start, but then they're all involved in, I can't remember what that group's called in London, but then look up the Belt and Road Initiative.
Yeah.
Belt, BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. That's a Chinese thing. They've got 70 countries around the world signed up. So what they've literally done, like they did in Greece, back in Greece, everyone's like, oh, the Greeks don't know how to manage their money. Are you serious, man? We made the word economy is a Greek word, and we don't know how to manage money. Economia, okay. But what happened is they bought Greece out, and they literally gave them all this money. They went, here, take all this money. The Greeks were like, okay, we've never had a credit card before, but let's buy this and that and that. And then they couldn't pay it back. Part of the deal of getting that money was, if you don't pay it back, we're going to take over your roads, your rail, your ports, everything. And that's why Greece is in disarray.
Well, this is a classic case.
You can do that to Greece. You can, the birthplace of democracy. Then it was what the Chinese did, and they went and took it over through all their funding. I'm sorry, John, please.
No, I was just going to say, have you read Confessions of an Economic Hitman?
Oh, I've heard about. Yeah, I have. I haven't read it, but I've.
That is amazing,
isn't it? Isn't it?
It is.
I mean, it literally spells out exactly what we see in every country we're seeing. Yeah.
And it's quite effective too, and of course it would be.
And it was the Belarus president that came out this week, I think, saying that he was offered bribes by the International Monetary Fund to enforce lockdown. So if anyone in any country on this earth doesn't think that their piss poor, spineless leaders aren't being bribed to enforce lockdown after lockdown and stricter measures after stricter measures, then you're frankly sadly naive.
And John?
Yep.
And John, another thing, if you Google in Australia, they call, how they had espionage?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now it's called sexpionage.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Let's say I was telling you about our premier, a really cool, honest guy. He goes to China and he has a night out on the piss, and who knows what they drink. And before you know it, he's sleeping with who knows who and how old they are. And then that's called sexpionage. And now they've got your ever. You know that. We all know that, right? You know, no one here on this or listening would not know that that's how they did the Epstein thing. Hugh Hefner,
Nicole Kidman's father.
Nicole Kidman's father, and it's been going on for so long. So
and now they're trying to derail that whole thing, I think, with this whole freaking Barat movie, send up Giuliani scene, making it this big thing that now it's going to kind of, I think, try to diffuse some of it, actually.
It's almost freaking, you know, I try and limit what I talk about. You know, I try to be the flat earther. I just stick on that topic. But how do you, with all this going on, how do I just go, no, I'm not going to, you know, talk about voting or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I mean, flat Earth's big. Flat Earth is the icing on the cake. But if you
yeah,
if you can understand flat Earth, then you can understand how every country is politically tied, how they're all compromised, how they're all blackmailed, how they're all actors, how they're all puppets pushing an agenda of a silent minority in the background, like the World Economic Forum or whatever, of a bunch of billionaires that would like this place for themselves but need a few of us around to run it for them. This all becomes apparent if you can understand the flat earth concept and how the hell it came about, you know, from the Jesuits to everything else. I mean, the Freemasons, you name it. But unfortunately, a lot of people need baby steps, and they need to find out that JFK wasn't shot by a lone gunman first. And I mean, good grief, come on, people, it's time not to be naive.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if everyone listened to Globebuster's show from the beginning 4 years ago, we wouldn't be in this place, right?
Right.
People would be on, they'd know nature at a new level, and they'd at least be, you know, gee, it's been when are we going to the moon again?
What woke you up, Billy? And how long ago was it?
2019. You pick a year we haven't gone.
So, yeah, Billy, what was it back in 1996 that got you looking into conspiracy theories? That's when I graduated high school, by the way.
Yeah, that's when I first connected to the internet, and it was like that dial-up modem, like doo-doo-doo. I kind of miss that sound because it would take you, you know, like
classic.
Someone would call you and interrupt your connection, and you'd be back. Okay, well, I'm talking to someone now. It's like, get off here, you know. But anyway, back then, I got on the internet 1996, and you had a limited, you know, amount of time you could do. But I don't know, something. I used to be a salesman at that stage, and I remember knocking on someone's door, and I spent an hour at his door, and he's telling me about the military-industrial complex. I'm 25 years old. I'm like, what? I'm just trying to get a $15 sale with you, man. Let me go. But and then I went, but he opened my mind up because he was telling me that, you know, wars are created to make money, and I'd never considered that before. Like, you're too busy. You're running, you know, you got a family, and then I got home and started researching, and aspartame, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Artificial
E.
sweetener.
coli poop, you mean?
That's where I got started. Maybe, you know, and then you get sick of that. So then moon landings. And so I remember that the moon landing was probably one of my first ones, digging into that, trying to get information on the moon. But there was a site, and it's still around now. That's been around, it was one of the earliest sites.
Elias.
Bob would probably know it.
Elias.
Yeah, that one. That's been around for a
But we're not allowed to mention them because they'll strike us, because they really don't think the Earth is flat. How sad are they?
But they know that, yeah, so I've got friends that know that don't think the Earth is flat, but they know the moon landings were crap. So let them try and reconcile that within their you know, brains. But yeah, and that's what I started. And then 9/11 happened, and I remember I thought I was hook, line, and sinker. We're going to war. I told my wife, I'll go to war and fight who's ever doing this. But then I built up the courage to type 9/11 hoax into Google, and that changed my world. Because then when you look at other, you know.
Well, Billy, you did go to war against the people that did this.
We did, yeah. But I was personally ready to go to war.
But
I
it
told my
didn't
wife,
involve guns and people with towels on their head. It involved exactly what you do now, 20 years of hardcore research, a book behind it, and all the rest of it.
and I wonder how many people that woke up. You know how before I was saying this year woke up a stack of people, right? And it's funny back then, if you listen to 2001 interviews of Donald Rumsfeld, any of those dudes, actually it was Rumsfeld that said this. He said there's going to be, this war will go for 20 years. The 9/11 war that was instigated by 9/11 would go for 20 years. And weren't they on the money? On the money. They tell you everything they're going to do. They tell you, as we know, they kind of disclose information. But getting back on track, so 9/11 really changed like everyone. And then you start, just keep going. I learned about the straw man theory. Have you guys at least researched that maritime law?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how it's like yet. Obviously, I've researched that in probably 2005. Went along. Then you get YouTube comes along. It's like, whoa, a new paradigm of information available to you. So it's been a really, and guess what? And you've got to maintain yourself as a human to your family, as a family man, as a father, as a husband, as a businessman, and just trying to work with society. And I think I held on to that till about when Flat Earth came, and that changed everything, man. Now I've just given all of that up. I couldn't give a shit about being a millionaire, a billionaire, or any of that. Don't even want to know.
How's that gone down with your wife and kids and etc.? If you,
I think we've all grown together. My wife's really cool. And I remember telling her about Flat Earth, say 2015, and getting frustrated. Like, why can't these people see it? And you know what she said to me? She said, "Don't worry, let it be patient. Things will grow, take time." And it was when I actually had a release and went, yeah, what am I rushing for? Things will take. We're still learning. How far is the sun? Does anyone here know? No, we're going to learn. Does it need? Do you really need to know how far the sun is to figure out the ground you're on is level? No, we don't. So we're going to learn and have a lot of patience.
I think we've been lucky, all of us here on this panel, that we have a significant other in our lives that has helped ground us and keep us from keeping spun out. Because
Absolutely.
we all had that period of like, just everybody needs to know. I gotta tell everybody and help them, and just calm down. Michelle too. It's just like
so true.
Just chill. Just chill. It'll all come together.
my biggest, best flat Earth companion has always been my dog. He looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, I know. I knew all along. Don't worry."
I would know if it was spinning.
And it's probably someone from a past life, actually, your dog, He's like, I know, man,
Yeah.
It's hard, and we've
Undoubtedly. I don't doubt that at all, truly. Hank is without a doubt an old soul. Without a doubt. That's our buddy Zach's buddy, his dog.
But it's amazing because Flat Earth is more about, when you get into the topic, as everyone knows here, that you question, the insect that's on your desk. You don't want to kill it. It's like, well, he's on his journey. You're better off just taking it outside and let him go, or just let him go. He's not going to kill you.
You're not wrong.
A day or two, but you get to live 70, 80 years,
I've become absolutely expert at herding flies out the door now. It's so much easier than smacking them against the wall and having to clear up their bloody splat.
You helped me, John, teaching me how to get the spiders out of here without killing them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, even to respect every creature on Earth. I had one of my cousins. He came over, and his son went a path of ants. and he's like killing every ant. And I'm like, stop it. I had to grab him, like, what are you doing? And I said, you're killing them. They're just trying to cross from there to there. And this kid, he was 10 years old, he's like, looked at me. He never even fathomed that before. But now, you know, 3, 4 is like.
That'll be a formative point in his life. That was awesome.
You see people changing. You see kids changing. And if we don't teach kids at that level, like, I don't even know what their parents are doing, you know.
Putting them in front of screens 9 times out of 10, unfortunately, seems to be the case.
They're on the screens. They've got no connection with reality of killing a real creature, you know.
So, Billy, do you see good times ahead? Is your book positive? Is it?
Yeah, it is positive for the very last, you know, to the last words. To be honest, you know.
I'm really excited to read it, man. I haven't yet.
Likewise.
Praise it highly, and talking to you, meeting you. I mean, since before we got on the air, you hit us with the conversation you and Bob were having, dude. Literally put me with chills, deja vu, and a few times I felt your emotion just literally pouring through the screen. So thank you for sharing it with us. I am excited. I can't wait to read it. I truly am.
And to be honest, I'm trying to write another book right now. It's about, you know, the lockdown, and there's just no inspiration. Like, God is not with me on this. But when I was writing that book, it was, you know, just the emotional level that you reach writing something. But yeah, at the end, it's a positive outcome. It's like, you know, it's what we want to achieve. And that's what I tried to write in the book, you know, just to, we're never going to settle it. But you know, the book was about finding more land. So it was about trying to, you know, channel it down to that.
Well, no inspiration coming for the lockdown book may be indicative that it is fake and false and just a hiccup in our timeline. Maybe the book should be about what happened after the lockdown or how the lockdown ended.
It's not over yet, so I can't finish it. You know, someone's told me to do it in phases. But you know what? Putting all that aside, I don't even care if I do that, to be honest. I don't really want to have, you know, a negative association with like this thing that we've gone through. Well, the next thing is like amazing. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I'm so glad I remembered this. But I actually had a friend who bought the book. They gave it to their neighbor. The neighbor gave it to their 12-year-old daughter. And I'm like, oh, you shouldn't do that, because it starts off with, what do you mean the earth is flat? Have you lost your fucking mind? Like, there's an F word in there. Anyway, this 12-year-old girl is doing a school assignment on my book. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting.
That's brilliant.
That's awesome, man.
Because you hear things like that, and it doesn't matter if you sell a copy. You hear that, and that's what you want to hear.
Are you in contact with Douglas Falk, the author of?
Douglas Falk. Actually, I did early days. Because he published his book maybe 3 days after mine.
Wow.
And it was a bit. And then Mark Sargent, how's this? And Mark Sargent did it on the same day that I published my book the same day he did. So
wow.
If you look at synchronicity like that, what was happening?
Yeah.
And you could go, oh, you know, I'm jealous that they did. No, it's like you could start off like that, but then you go, hang on, we were doing it for what? For what purpose?
It's like Rob Durham published his video on gyroscopes. I think it was 2 days before I published mine.
I remember it well.
Neither of us knew we were even doing the same thing.
My gyroscope. The day I got my gyroscope.
You know what they say that you know, Marconi was working on the telecommunication device the same time as others were. They say when the motor vehicle was invented or discovered, or whatever you want to call it, there was several people around the world. So there was no communication devices. That's how they did it. Telepathy.
It's hundreds. Yeah, they call it 100th monkey, don't they? But yeah, I think it's
I think
better
it's that
known as
whole
telepathy.
flow that it's out there and it suddenly is ready to come to everybody. Our buddy James True, another author. Do you know James True?
Oh,
Man,
James.
yeah, he's a great guy. We've had him on here quite a few times, friend of the show, just like our buddy.
How do I spell his surname?
I'll send you the link. James True, True, and yeah, a great guy, amazing.
jtrue.com.
Yep, jtrue.com. Great books, great perspective. Greatest apocalypse ever is one of his latest catchphrases for this revelation that's occurring around the world with us. But yeah, definitely, man, we should have a writers.
While you're doing a shout out for authors, Mark Devlin.
Mark, actually, man, we got many authors in the community. We should get back in here. Martin's working on a new book, Martin Leake. So we should have a big
Martin Leake, yeah, he's got a book out, and that's all about the flood and mud flood and.
Bob, we need a book from you, brother.
Book, right?
Everyone will buy your book, man. Just do it.
Now you're retired.
You'll be waiting a while for that.
It's gonna, it'll be the memoirs in about 20, 30 years when he's hitting 80. This is how I proved the rotation of the Earth.
The Nodell papers.
That's right. Einstein is my bitch.
Shitbag.
You gotta have fun. But no, I'm serious, Bob. Like, you should document your knowledge somehow for future generations. Seriously, you should.
That's called Globebusters.
He should make a book about the preponderance of evidence and call it Nodal Points.
Yes, I love the name. I love the name of that, actually, Cammy. The preponderance of evidence. I think I sent that to a friend of mine who is a scientist in Australia. A 33, well, that sounds bad. Year Commonwealth Scientist of Australia, and he hated flat Earth. But that video, the preponderance of evidence you did, Bob and Cammy, that was the one. That was the one that made him go, "Oh shit, maybe I don't know everything about this Earth." And he's a flat earther now, so yeah.
Oh, awesome! That is awesome.
That is brilliant.
John Patterson, look him up. He was the guy that. Did you ever see that guy that stole the army tank in Sydney and crashed into the mobile phone towers?
What was his name? Sorry.
Well, yes, sir.
The guy, John Patterson, he stole an army tank and he crashed it into some mobile phone towers in 2006. That's him.
Wow, yes,
Wow.
I remember that.
I remember well.
And I turned him into a flat earther, huh?
We need to get him on.
Yeah, please, Billy, if you can, that would be amazing.
We need to get him on.
He called me yesterday. Like, he calls me every week now. Like, yeah. And he listens
Definitely,
to Globebusters.
yeah.
I reckon he listens to Globebusters every day because I sent him a whole USB stick with all your videos. And I reckon he lives in the country. He's got no internet. So I reckon he's just on auto repeat right now,
Wow.
I'd love to have him on your chat one day. If you want, I'll bring him on.
Well, certainly get him on Globebusters too, but get him over here with us too, brother. Bio hangs out with us a few times. That's awesome. It'd be great to talk to him because, yeah, I remember that whole. I shared that often.
John Patterson. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
John Patterson.
He was all about trying to show people how bad the current towers were then. I think we were not even at the 5G stage yet. It was coming, but yeah,
that's why
it was
he did
earlier.
it. He was getting radiation damage from the towers.
MFs, yeah, and I mean there were people putting them up on top of schools and stuff, and he was pointing out all the stuff.
My customer owns those tanks. He owns 2 of them. Yeah, so he stole his tank, and then anyway, I'll tell you about it one day.
Oh, that's fabulous. He was ahead of his time, and that would be a great show. And yeah, if he does get him to crash Iron Realm, I bet I could get Globebusters to sneak on with him.
Let's do it. I'll tell him. He'll be stuck.
We know a girl that could do something for us. Get a word in somebody's ear.
How is your birthday going, sweetheart?
Oh, it's great so far. Loving it.
Thank you for sharing it with us, friend, for sure. Truly.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, happy birthday, Bob. Billy, give us your details again, where people can get where they can get the book and how they can get in touch with you.
I'm periodically dropping the Amazon link here in chat, but I think Josh had dropped your actual website earlier, which I don't have handy.
Elusive Curve, so EL, like elusive curve, .com, or you can just Google that at Amazon. You know, look it up. I'm Amazon. Most big publishers have picked it up, which is a big surprise as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, give it a search, and as I said, you can also email me at billysig@gmail.com, and I can flick you over a free PDF version, so that way it's no cost to you at all.
That's awesome. You're awesome.
Website should be on screen right now. You can point down and just say, "There's my website."
And I hate to hit you up for it because you shared it earlier, but you had given them a discount code. I did not type in.
So just type in ZIG for Zigg, and you'll get a 25% discount if you want to purchase through the website, which would be great. Love your support.
Billy, you got any more books coming up or anything? You said you were writing one.
Yeah, I'm actually got about 5 books on the go, so never do that. I'm actually writing a sequel to my book, so it's what happens to Max after, and it's like pretty feisty again from day one, from page 1. Actually, it's like I throw people into the deep end, and that's what I like to do. I don't know why, in what I'm writing, and it's funny. Like the first book, I gotta, I'm not gonna tell you where it is, but there's like a dream sequence. You know those movies where you're watching and you go, "What the fuck's happening now?" And you go, and then later you go, "Oh, that was a dream." And there's a dream sequence, so that one is probably one of my best 2 chapters that I wrote in the book. Like, but yeah, no, I'm working on a few different novels and a children's book as well, because I want people to think.
Oh wow, brilliant!
Think at the fundamental level, like why? Those questions, like children, they go, but why? But why? Those ones are critical, because if you lie at that point, it's a lie. We should be lying
to spin it off in a weird direction. That was what I was listening to Ironworks this morning with Josh, Walt, and Zach, and they were talking about lying, or Father Christmas, and lying to your kids and everything. And I thought that was so. What you were saying, Josh, about knowing that at some point your child's going to realize it's a lie and then look at you in an entirely different way and say, why didn't you tell me? I trusted you. And when you tell your child that Santa Claus doesn't exist, then you are portrayed as Jack the Ripper, the arch enemy of everything, when in reality you're just not lying to your kids. It doesn't mean that Christmas doesn't have to be special and magical and everything else, but it doesn't mean that you have to lie to your kids and tell them that some fat man comes down the chimney and these freaking green elves you were talking about. If anyone hasn't listened to this morning's Ironworks with Josh, Bolton, Curra and Zach, then go listen to it this morning, because it's the only reason I was on the show tonight was the love that came out of the show this morning. So I thank you for that, you guys.
Thank you, sir. That's amazing praise. Thank you.
And I'll shut up now and piss off.
There was quite a bit of love there. And I just want to say, as holding myself accountable, I took $30 and donated it to Mac for whatever it is Mac wants and Mac needs when he gets home. If it's dinner, if he wants a steak, there's $30 towards a steak. When I hit it, it was like at $88. So that'd be a real nice dinner. Doesn't matter what he spends it on. And then I took the other 20 and sent it for Sue. And I know that Baldini had pretty much already covered Sue. So that's $20 for Baldini to go get a nice chicken dinner. I don't know. You're probably not going to get a bunch of a steak dinner for $20, but again, it's $20 to help cover the cost of what you had to pay for Sue, because that's how we build this community, is through supporting each other. So the fact that you can do it and take it upon yourself to be able to support her all at once, I want to help be able to at least alleviate a little bit of that load as best that I can. I'll make sure we get links back up there. I know we've got them from the show this morning, but
I dropped the Mac link there in chat again, and I'll put it in the description here. It should be in the show from this morning, which is linked, I believe, in the show description. I'm not sure. It'll all be there though, damn it. It will be there, I promise.
but I'm sure pretty sure Baldini's is still open. His is just kind
Yeah,
of
earlier he was filling us in earlier in chat, but I've gone in and out now to put Billy's books link, and you had already put the website there in the show description. So we got you covered there, Billy, but I've gone too far now to go back up and see the details. I know, as you say, he did take care of Sue. So Sue, sending you lots of love. Thank you so much. And earlier, our friend, I just saw it again, that flat fellow, dropping a nice super chat to us. Love every stream. Thanks for all the work you all do. Thank you, that flat fellow. We love you, brother. Appreciate it.
That fat flat.
Yeah, it was a little mouthful there.
Well, can I say, Billy, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you. It's knocking on 1:30 in the morning here, so my night's just beginning, and I'm going to have to move on, but it's been an absolute pleasure. Cheers for joining us. Glad you can finally get here. Apologies for absence with Adam. You missed, buddy. Where are you? Hope everything's doing well.
We'll do it again. Good on you, John. Thank you so much, man.
No worries.
Yeah, feel free to connect. And
you must know a guy called Rob. He lives up in Townsville.
Right? I mean, in Australia, you guys all know each other, right?
He's the guy who complains that there are no flat earthers in Australia, and then we have like 3 or 4 weeks on the trot with Lucas and yourself and God knows how many other people from Australia.
Yeah, Rob was actually in chat earlier saying, "Oh, I see, you guys got an Aussie in the show now. He's been replaced." So yeah, Rob. I mean, hey, you hung up your hat, bro. Really, it's been a blast, Billy. If you have to head out, you certainly can. I don't know if everybody else is ready. It's up to you guys. We have been on it for a minute, so.
you're a legend. Guys. It's been actually a brilliant show. Love it.
Well, it's been an absolute blast. I'm so glad you finally made it on. If you could see my huge smiling face, I can.
That's all I've been doing, smirking. Shout out to Connie there in chat. I've been loving it, man. Truly, you've shared. I've definitely felt your emotion through it all. I know apparently you've had some rough times through this damn COVID we're dealing with. So definitely, man, sending you lots of love, lots of love. Thank you for sharing with us, and come back. You are now part of the family. Once you walk through the door, it never closes behind you. You're in, brother.
God bless, man, and we're all in this together, as they say.
That's true.
So, Billy, I want to put out the invite that if you ever decide to write a futuristic book and you need that extra piece of land in it, talk to me. I know magnetically where there needs to be a big piece of land, so it'd be fun to put the magnetics and the sciences together with the novels and the stuff going in and watch it all fall out.
Let's do that, Cammy, because I know I've seen some of the stuff you've mapping things out, and I reckon that's where my book needs to sort of go, like helping people. Because the first book was about, hey, here's an idea how you could find more land without risking any life. We don't want to, risk life doing this. I'm not going to go out to the Antarctica, and I don't imagine anyone else would as well. But if we can do it, and then if we do it risk-free and then have some certainty behind where we're going, that's a big thing.
Yeah, if we had a map and knew exactly where we were looking to land, it would be helpful. It would be very helpful.
Wouldn't
But
it?
yeah, I'd love to play with that on a novel or, again, working it in towards our reality. But we know it's got to be there because magnetic patterns don't just stop. They can, they come to a closure on it. And so looking at the patterns of it we know where there's got to be a big piece of land.
And isn't it now amazing that we're now learning about magnetism more as well? Like, you know, we thought all these things were solved and sorted and everyone worked it out. Now we're like, you know, we're re-looking at the compass, at the basics of a compass, right? Where we thought our teachers sorted that out when we were at school. So now it's quite
No,
where we're going and with your work, Cammy, because I've seen how I don't even know how you do that. Like, I'm serious. I don't even know you try and work out that. But it's, you know, I know you've got some good people that you've brought in, and that is a big effort in itself.
well, it's fun doing it. I really enjoy doing it. I mean, it's the most mysterious puzzle of all times, and so any little piece or any little place, you know, thing that you get to fit, it's fun. It's almost like you hear a bell ring.
That's so true, what you just said as well. It's fun doing it because it's got to be fun. Yeah. You know, we
Yeah.
all love what we're doing, you know?
Yeah. And what
Like,
you were talking about earlier, you were talking about like everything you studied or compelled to, and Bob was too, but Prussian, unintended consequences likes to talk about that, but it's almost do you find that you were compelled to study the pieces that you need now? Like when you're wondering, like, why am I so compelled to study all of this stuff? Do you find now that it's like all of these pieces pop in there and it's like, oh, that's why I know with me, it's like, that's why I was obsessed with space weather, or that's why I was obsessed
oh,
with the BZ index or whatever. But yeah, that feeling. And I'm sure coming together in the books. Yeah.
you're right. That feeling is amazing. And I kind of feel sorry for the people that don't go through that in a way. Like, you know, they just watch Netflix and they just are lost now. They think that and they order Uber Eats and they think they're safe. They're at home, and they don't question anything more. And that's sad. Actually.
It's very sad. It must be just like a hum all the time. It's all I can figure. It's just this calm, warm, comforting home that they're just pleased to be in, because otherwise, what else could it be? Don't get it. Just don't get it.
I don't get it either. And they trust they put in everyone else and the media. Like, they have like destroyed. If I want to blame anyone, I blame the media. You know, those ones on, you know, I'm sure in America you've got like you know, Anderson, you know, what's his name? You know, all those people that are just there and people have known them for years on end and they trust them. So anything they say, you know, they landed on an asteroid. It's worth $1 trillion bazillion.
Did you
No
see
worries.
the nonsense video they put out?
Oh, that was a classic. My family call me now and they go, Dad, come and look at this, you know? Like, we were arguing 3 years ago, like Dad was crazy, and now they're calling me
Now
going,
they're sharing it. That's awesome.
it's funny actually.
Oh,
I
that
love
is the best.
Isn't that the best, Cammy? Yeah, that is the best. When they finally, you know, and I think Elon Musk helped. We know when they put the car in space. I had so many friends that day go, okay, Bill, you're not friggin' crazy. They are crazy for even trying that, you know? And then it opened them up to becoming, and now they're flat earthers. So you got to wonder, are they trying to help us?
I often do. We talk about that here, that there have to be some people that are either trying to wake people up from
Yeah,
a
maybe
big.
not the ones in charge, but somebody's messing up on purpose.
Yeah. Well, how do you tell people? Like, I think I wrote that. Like, we've all, you know, there was no original thought. Like, how do they come up and tell you the Earth is flat? If they've been lying for 50 years, how do you do it? So
You work it in.
gradual thing, you know.
And then you start slipping it into YouTube suggested videos.
Absolutely. or in video games or stuff, even, like, right, Zach?
But how many times have I heard the
Yeah.
story of people saying, I started seeing it pop up in my suggested video feed? Somebody on YouTube was making that so. There was something in that algorithm that made that so. Somebody wrote an algorithm so that that would happen. If that's not white hat stuff, at least gray hat stuff. I don't know what is.
I know. Yeah, I like that actually. That's a good thought. Because if, like, let's say you worked for YouTube, I reckon you would do that.
Right.
Wouldn't you? You
Absolutely.
would write that and go, stuff it. I'm just going to tell everyone.
Just gonna
Just
tell
drip
everyone.
feed.
I'm gonna leak it out slowly, but I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna
I'm going
get.
to get the stack one day, but yeah, I'll do it. You know?
So has anybody found out what kind of travel has been going on to Antarctica over the last, say, 8-9 months?
I'm wondering what's gone over the last couple of days, like literally. I mean, last 4 years ago, Kerry was there the day of the election. So who went this time?
Well, it's probably pretty limited with the travel restrictions and the masks, and I'm sure that Antarctica's probably got some even more restrictions than before because of disease and pandemics and travel to there for scientific purposes and trying to keep the environment pristine. So I'm just wondering, were there plans for people to go to Antarctica that are now having to be canceled because this is going on? Or are they still allowing people to go and truck around out in the snow? I hear cold's probably not the best environment for feeling it.
I got
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, nothing. COVID-19 is a great curveball because like everyone's just not even looking at Antarctica or, you know, real experimentation anymore.
And what if there could be a very good reason for them to not only want to not make you look there, but they have to lock it down for some reason? And this is all part, what if all of this was in an effort to keep people from just going south?
That's interesting.
We just got to lock it all down. Fuck it.
I
We
just-
can't say nope, no more going to Antarctica. Fuck it, we lock it all down.
I just got dropped back in to let you know. My sister-in-law went to Antarctica in January this year. Usual malarkey, land on a splurge of ice and walk around a bit and come back. But yeah, she went to Antarctica this year. But I have just heard that didn't China sign up for some to extend the Antarctic, whatever it is, sea? You're not allowed to go there by something like 56 billion quadrillion miles. They just signed up to that, and that was hailed as amazing that you weren't allowed to go somewhere on Earth. Yay, brilliant.
When was that? That was very recent.
Recently, yeah, very recently. Last couple of weeks. But yeah, I just thought I'd pop in there and let you know. My sister-in-law went there. I asked her to do some very simple tests, and she couldn't be asked. It cost her 40 grand at least to go there and come back, and yeah.
For how long? How many days was she there?
It was a couple of weeks. It was on a cruise, and all I asked her to do was to take a photo of the sun every hour for 24 hours.
That's what I was going to
That's all I asked her to do, but that was too hilarious. Yeah, and nothing was done.
Which is quite, even though it's hilarious, but it would prove the globe if they wanted to. So you'd almost be famous. Imagine, you know.
That's what I said to her. You'd be the first person who'd done it, and you could rub my nose in mustard shit. Yeah.
I shared in chat here with us, Josh. I can't share with my computer right now. It's acting up. A link to probably the cruises she may have gone on there, John. Anyway, if you want to share it, Josh.
I could get you the exact cruise, but not at the moment. But yeah, it was in January.
I found this trying to find out if any celebrities had gone to Antarctica this year, and this is what popped up when I searched celebrities in Antarctica. This is what popped up. This cruise is something you can do up till right now. Apparently, you can book it and go hang out with the dolphins on the little ice float.
Wow. You can cruise on a iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
cool.
I have unusual thoughts, but I'm going to put them out there just because of all of the different work I've done with smoke and mirrors, I guess. But for those that say that, like when you sat there and said it would, if she could do it and take 24 hours of sun, it could prove the globe. I totally, totally, totally disagree with that. The more I look at this sky, the more, again, if there are, again, if the firmament is a fault of looking glass, it would function as a natural hologram emitter. And if you're working with a sky that's really of mirrors and that, different things are possible. So I would say that what you see in the sky would be in no way could ever prove what's happening on the ground.
I agree. Yeah, I
And so
agree.
the statements that like seeing the 24-hour sun would shut it down, I 100% disagree with that.
No,
If you
I
can make water
agree.
stick
I
to a
agree.
spinning ball,
But
yeah,
the fact that they haven't been able to show us the
that I agree
sun
with. That
for
it's strange
24
that they
hours
haven't.
is strange. Yeah.
That is strange and suspect. That's totally strange and suspect. But I always, and again,
I
I can
wouldn't
find no.
say it proved a globe Earth or a flat Earth or anything along those lines. It's just more. It's
It's part of
more
the preponderance of
weird.
evidence that it's strange that they have not been able to come up with that when it would be such a
Whereas
should be such a
millions of people have done this in the north.
right, and you have cameras and research bases all over the place there. I mean, you're not asking a very hard thing there. So you're right. It is strange that we don't have any of that footage. But again, if a sun did appear and even get if by some bizarre thing, something came out and you were able to
I'd
call it
be
legitimate.
surprised. I'd
Yeah,
be
I'd be surprised,
surprised if
but I wouldn't
they
call it. But
could
it
do
wouldn't be
it,
enough to call it.
but
Yeah,
it wouldn't be conclusive because,
correct.
quite frankly, if we're living under a cup and your
Right.
personal atmospheric dome and all the rest of it, we literally have no idea what's going on. But the fact that they've never shown us that is quite a preponderance for me.
That I will 100% agree with.
Yeah, and have you guys seen that CIA document that was it was done in 1952, I think it was, but then later approved by the CIA. I've just shared the link, right? But if you scroll through that, and it talks about how light scatters in the sky, and they literally, I think, I'm pretty sure Globebusters discovered this before, but they talk about the firmament and how light or the sun can reflect off the firmament and, it can create all sorts of effects, including, the noble gases that appear in, so many different brilliant colors through the night sometimes, or at dusk when the sun is setting. So yeah, I've just shared that document, but if you check that out, so I don't know what page, I think it's page 23, where they literally talk about a flat Earth. They mention flat Earth and firmament in on the one page. So have you seen that, Cami?
I have not at all.
This is new to me too, y'all. This is
Oh,
awesome.
I've seen it. I've seen it. I covered it on a
Covered that.
Globebusters
Oh,
as
cool.
part of my series on proving that the firmament was real. That was part of the evidence.
Oh, am I getting busted?
No, we have that. We had that. There
Busted,
are several government documents that mention the firmament and how they're studying it, as well as, of course, sprites and elves, and how we have
absolutely.
certain atmospheric effects that are
Right.
incredibly anomalous taking place at 100 kilometers or 62 miles, which is where I believe the bottom of the firmament is. That's also seems to be where, right in that 60 to 70-mile range is also where the go fast rockets seem to hit something and
The
stop.
carbon line? Yeah.
There's every evidence in the world that there is a firmament, and yeah, I did an entire show on it. And this particular document was one of the ones that I showed this, and I actually have several others as well.
Yeah, I remember you sharing that. So if you go to, yes, this part's good, because I sent that to that scientist guy that I know, John Patterson, and he's so well researched across so many different. So he's not a one-sided guy. He's like he can rebuild. He rebuilt the tank, right? So it's mechanical. We could do so many things. But when I showed him this, it blew him away. You know, and even your video, actually, Bob, or your research. When I said to him, well, you could measure that the Earth is spinning, but have you ever thought about maybe the sky is spinning? And he went, oh my God, you know what I mean? Because he's the smartest guy I know, but he never even considered it before. Figure that out, right? That you never, but neither did I, and neither did you. So this is new, and it's quite, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Well, I
quite
mean, you know, as you have certain people like Nathan Oakley's crew are always fond about talking about you can't have air pressure next to a vacuum without the antecedent of a container, right? Well, that is the fact. We do have a container. It's called the firmament, and there's a ton of evidence for it.
And hey, Bob, have you ever heard the crazy notion that they could attach things on the firmament, and that's how satellites work? Or
I have. I tend to believe that they are bouncing signals off of it because, in fact, they even admit it to a certain degree. You know, they talk about signals bouncing off the ionosphere.
proper
But
scatter? Yeah,
yeah, but there's troposcatter, which is at around 62 miles,
yeah.
which takes place, and it's like, okay, so why is it that sprites and elves terminate at 62 miles? Why do rockets seem to terminate at 62 miles? Why is troposcatter taking place at 62 miles? You know,
Brilliant.
what's going on with that, right?
That's magic, sir. That's
Yeah.
magic. Like, what a coincidence. Oh, everything, you know, the coincidence series would have a field day over that one. Well, it just has to, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I just threw it in a big bucket with all the other evidence, and another preponderance of evidence, because you know the firmament is there. There's no doubt about it in my mind, and I think I provided lots of evidence for it on multiple shows.
I agree. I just don't know if it's a ceiling or if it's a dome.
Well,
Could it be a
I'm not positive of that either, but
This
as
was
far
a
as
Greek
it being there, it's there.
Yeah, there was a Greek guy, Indiapolis. I can't remember his name, but it was like in the, 2,000-3,000 years ago. Because they all told us that the Greeks thought that it was the spinning ball. That's bullshit, man. The Greeks actually questioned. They wrote about a flat Earth with a flat ceiling, but I don't know if that works either. Like, why would we have different pressure? But I haven't measured anything. Like, how
Well,
can I measure?
you're going to have pressure, but in order to admit that there is a pressure gradient, the first thing you have to admit is that there is a downward bias, aka gravity, right? Now, there's this whole controversy about whether gravity exists or not, and whether or not it's Einsteinian, bendy curvature, bendy space-time, or mass attracting mass. But the reality is whatever it is, and I tend to think that it's incoherent mass, electrostatic and electromagnetic mass, and Zach did a beautiful video that illustrated that. But so there is there is absolutely a downward bias to this Earth, and oops, we're getting all kinds of doorbells here.
And
So
it's the why we don't know, right? That's
right, it's
why.
the why we don't know, but we have good speculation on it, though. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that video of Zach's or not. If you haven't,
Man, I've watched everything you've
I
done.
think that's actually Zach having trouble getting in here trying to connect on his computer. Maybe
Uh-oh.
what you're hearing.
I don't want
well,
to
just lock the door then. Why don't we let him
Yeah,
in?
we don't want that dude in here.
Yeah, screw that guy.
Well, if you guys,
I love your new property, by the way, Bob and Cammy. Wow.
Oh, thank you. We enjoy it.
Do you have a river in your backyard?
Yes, we do.
hey guys, if you don't mind, in the in the spirit of all fairness, we have a super chat from Nappy Headed Zero Combs asking, if the Earth is flat, why can't we all see Polaris? Where are the pics of a dome? How do eclipses work? Give me something.
Those are easy questions.
I'm aware they are, and I would definitely like you guys to jump on if you would not mind.
Okay. The reason that we can't all see Polaris is because Polaris, first of all, is not 450 light years away. Or actually, I'm sorry, they revised Polaris. They just had a mere 130 light year error on it. Now they're declaring Polaris at being at 320 light years, right? So just a minor thing. So it's not that far away, first of all. So if I had to guess, I would say it's actually somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 miles. And the reason that you can't see it is because if it's actually much lower and much closer, then you have your angle of incidence. So look at it this way: if you have a some paint and paint a spot on your ceiling, right? Then look up at the ceiling and it's directly above you. So call that Polaris. Then back off 2 feet. Well, now you've seen that essentially what has happened is that has changed its angle to about 80 degrees instead of 90. Back off a few more feet. Well, now it's going to be about 60 to 50 degrees. And if you back all the way off to maybe 50 feet across the room, the convergence, your optical convergence, is going to bring that spot down to roughly 90 degrees, right? So essentially what is happening is when you get past the equator, and by the way, the people that brought about this deception knew this full well, and that's why they made these latitude and longitude coordinates, right? So the reason we can't see it is because it simply has dropped below our maximum visual acuity angle, right? We can't see it because our angle of resolution has become too low to be able to spot it. That's why you've got to get out of the ball earth paradigm of thinking of things. The sun, of course, people ask a similar question. Well, if the earth was flat, then how come it's not daytime all over earth? Well, because again, the sun is not 93 million miles away, because if it was, then we would have daytime all day long on a flat earth. But because it's close and local, what you're doing is take a flashlight and hold it over the floor, right? And draw a big circle on the floor, and then take your flashlight and go around the floor. What it's doing is it's got a local area that it lights up, right? And as you move it away, the light becomes dimmer and dimmer, and then completely goes out from certain areas. So it's the same exact type of concept. So the deceivers, when they designed this latitude and longitude model, they knew full well exactly where Polaris is. They know it's not 450 light years away. They know that it's likely more around 3,400 miles. And then you simply back away from it. It's going to drop down on your horizon. That's the way it works. So there's your answer.
Absolutely, yeah. And
Nice one. Thank you.
limited view they expect, and it's actually a good question, what he asks, and we kind of dismiss it, but he should be looking at ground level first, like prove curvature, and then try and establish how far the stars are and whether what they told you was real.
Okay,
as
and
inclusive.
yeah, there's also, he asked a couple other questions too. Let me continue on.
Well, pics of the dome are
Yes.
sort of like one of those. We haven't been to the sun either, but
there's evidence
there
for it.
are. Yeah, I was going to say there are evidence out there, preponderance thereof. So go right ahead, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, the evidence for a dome is, like I was talking about earlier, sprites and elves seem to terminate, they discharge going up, and they hit something and they flatten out, and they flatten out roughly at about 62 miles or 100 kilometers, right? So somewhere between 60 and 70 miles appears to be the bottom side of this firmament. We have propagation changes. You have the ionosphere and the troposphere, where signals make dramatic propagation changes up there as if they're bouncing off something. You also have the evidence from University of Colorado and Massachusetts Institute of Technology, who came right out and blatantly wrote an article and said there is a Star Trek type shield up there. Now, they had the altitude at a much, much higher elevation, but you have to understand they always get the scale wrong. But regardless, they're saying that it's like an absolute sheet of glass. There's something solid up there. And this is from MIT, right?
I love that
And
book.
there's also a wall at the edge of space if you want to go into their bullshit models that they're slowly but surely introducing into the.
Sorry to interrupt you, Bob, but that glass-like shield. I remember reading that because I was a big space head. I didn't like Star Trek and all that. I like, used to just love the heliocentric model. And I remember in the year 2012 or 13, there was an article that said scientists have discovered a glass shield. I like it bamboozled me, but now that I connect the dots, right, with what you just said, you know, this shield and it's this dome. Anyway, continue on. I love what you're doing.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of evidence, and like I said, I've done shows on this. You guys can still hear me, yes?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
So I've done several shows on this, you know, about the firmament and the enormous amount of evidence. And one of those things was just like the document that Billy just shared. There are several government documents that talk about the firmament, how it has certain light dispersal characteristics, right? So you have the government talking about it. You have sprites, you have elves, you have RF propagation, you have uh, you have
Pressure.
universities that are saying straight up there is something up there that is rock solid glass. And I'm going to pull this up and drop it in the chat here in just a second. But I mean, and it goes on and on and on and on. So when people say where's the evidence, it's like my answer is you're kidding, right? There's a ton of evidence for that firmament, and there are actual photographs in which you can actually see it.
Absolutely. Some of
So
the WikiLeaks from Antarctica, I believe, have some that are pretty persuasive.
absolutely. And then you've got the Venezuelan and Peruvian newspapers that were talking about Admiral Byrd when he took his flight expeditions down there for what was it, high jump or whatever. They were hitting, they thought at that time, because these planes were running into a glass wall or something that was rock solid, and they were convinced at that point in time that the Nazis had actually perfected their shield technology, right? I mean, they literally wrote about this, but what they were running into clearly was the dome, right? So, and again, the other thing, another big piece of evidence, and probably the biggest piece of evidence of all for the firmament, is the fact that we have gas pressure next to an alleged vacuum of space. Now, the vacuum of space, there is inside of this, there is a pressure gradient, right? In other words, it's 14.7 psi at the ground, and it goes up, you know, and by the time you get to 100,000 feet, it's about 0.1 psi. All right. So there's a pressure gradient. But when you compare that pressure gradient to a 10 to the negative 17th torr, you know, at however high above that, it literally would blow the atmosphere off into space. So there you have one of the biggest proofs and evidences for a firmament there is. So I mean, there is a shit ton of evidence for the firmament. I like I said, I could do a whole show on it, and I have. So there you go. And I'm going to
Awesome.
post that document here in just a second.
Awesome.
I was actually trying to dig up the pictures, but I've got too many folders full of photographs. I'll find it and put it in here somewhere.
So Zach, was that from Dan's video?
No.
No, but you did find evidence of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This is from some guy that made a video calling me the dumbest man to ever live on this planet.
Nice.
Yeah, you can see right here, the dumbest man to ever live on this planet. PBS, online, Stephen Hawking's universe, flat Earth universe, and it doesn't say much about it. Not so much a theory of the universe as a simple picture of the planet we call home. The flat Earth model proposed that the Earth's surface was level, and that's it. That's all they say about him talking about. And this is Stephen Hawking's model right here, like a petri dish of water with land poking out the top.
That the Earth's surface was level. Well, that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, and it says, oh, but we know because ships go over the curve and Aristotle and blah, blah, blah. But this is the only picture I can find of it now, is in this guy's video.
Wow, that's
and it was on PBS. That's where I had originally seen it.
right. Never seen it.
Okay, so I just posted in the chat multiple times that particular article, and let's go to it and actually read some of it. So if you scroll down a bit, oops, you got to love some of this verbiage that they use.
Good choice of words. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it really is. But yeah, they talk. Oh, well, here's the article. I mean, the whole damn thing is talking about this
Absolutely.
seeming like absolute solid shield that's up there. And MIT backed this up. And then several other universities came out and said the exact same thing. Well, damn, if this thing is up there and it's rock solid, like it's, you know, a solid piece of shielding, how the hell did the Apollo missions ever get up through it? Well, they didn't. And of course, that's another piece of evidence. We know that the Apollo missions were a complete fraud. They didn't go anywhere. And the reason they didn't go anywhere is because they can't. So it says right at the very beginning, a team led by the University of Colorado has discovered an invisible shield some 7,200 miles above the Earth that blocks so-called killer electrons, which whip around, blah, 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 blah. All right, the barrier to the particle motion was discovered in the Van Allen radiation belts. Where is the part where they actually talk about it being like a solid glass? Yeah, where is it? It's almost like these
electrons are
electrons
running into a glass wall
in space.
I remember reading this before I was a flat earther, so it was like I used to wonder, like, wow, but I never pieced it together. I never went, well, how did they go to the moon? Well, I knew they didn't go to the moon anyway, so, but it never resonated that they would lie about where we live. You never.
But when you connect the dots, the truth comes out.
Beautiful. It's
And
actually
s-
amazing.
Yeah,
It's
70,
amazing.
7,200 miles, maybe, but I tend to think it's much closer, between 3 and 4,000 miles, because, and the reason I say that is because biblically, if you look at the firmament, how it's defined, it seems to be like a cavern. You have a lower enclosure, then you have the sun and the moon within the cavern itself of the firmament, and then you have an upper enclosure, right, separating the waters from above from below, etc. Right. Well, if you triangulate, now get this, guys, this is absolutely astounding. If you were to take a light source, okay, and let's just call it the sun, right? Okay, so, and you were to look at the light source and say, okay, how high does it have to be to project a light half the circumference of the world, right? In other words, 6,200 miles in one direction, 6,200, making basically 12,500 miles, right? Or half the circumference. How high does it have to be? Well, the answer to that is it has to be 3,415.9 miles, right? Up. Now that's very interesting because 3,415.9 miles equates to 180,360,00 feet, and you do that distance to the horizon thing, and there it has it. So we're talking about basically 3,415. Wait. We're talking about 3,415.9 miles. Now, if you do a moon triangulation, you take two people in the United States or anywhere else that you want to do this triangulation from. In fact, Red's Rhetoric, the big Glober guy, did it with his friend Turkey Cat, where Reds was in Florida, I believe, or maybe he was in California, and his friend Turkey Cat was in California. And so they did a basic Pythagorean triangulation, and they did the math, triangulated on it. And there's one thing that they do differently, for triangulating the moon than we would as flat earthers, and that is add in the parallax for the supposed curvature of the earth. Well, so if you do all the math, then it comes out on the triangulation that the moon is 234,000 miles away, just like NASA says it is. But if you do not put that parallax figure in and you simply assume the earth is flat, then the moon triangulates at, guess how high? 3,415.9 miles, right? Now that is astounding that math actually works out that way, right? I don't care who you are, that's incredible. So,
That's cool. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you before. I
no
actually
worries.
didn't say 3,004. I thought you went 3.142, like the number of pi. And
No,
I
it's
thought,
very close to pi. It's instead of being 314,159, it's
right,
3,415.9. But
I realized, yeah.
but that number, like I said, the interesting thing about that number is it breaks down precisely to 180,360,00 feet, is 3,415.9 miles, and is precisely the distance, the height needed to project a light precisely half the circumference of the earth.
And they could reverse
Precisely.
engineer that, couldn't they? They
Yeah.
could couldn't
Of,
they?
of course they did, but the fact that it works out that way, the odds of that happening by sheer coincidence are impossible. What that tells us is that this place was intelligently designed with a
Absolutely.
specific geometry meant, that was built into it. And the elites are big on numerology and numbers and stuff like this. And you find coincidences like this, and I'm sorry, they're not freaking coincidences. This stuff is beyond belief.
And man, you nailed it right there. When you said that they want us to think it's a coincidence, but this was created with so much precision. Like, people ask, why do things fall down? Well, which way do you want it to fall? Like in a game, Mark Sargent brings it up in gaming environment, or even if you were God, or Dodeka Theon, 12 gods in Greek. Dodeka Theon. I don't reckon there was one God. There must have been multiple gods, right? To create this perfection on earth. And they reckon that if you're drowning in the ocean and you go, oh God, help me, he won't help you, because you've got to ask the right God. You've got to ask Poseidon. He's the god of the ocean. Or if you want help with fire, you better ask Zeus. Yeah? The lightning bolt. So, and this precision that you brought up, this perfection, hey, that's what they are hiding at the end of the day. Like, if the world just wondered if we just wondered about it for 5 years, the whole earth, everyone, the whole populace on earth forgot work. They went, nah, let's work out where we live. It destroys everything. And maybe that's how you start something new. And I reckon that's what we're doing effectively. Like, what we're doing is making people question their reality and the nature of everything, their existence. And I don't know. So we don't vote for, we keep educating people is my thinking.
Yeah, we just keep putting it out there. And like I said, I'm not interested in debating ball earthers. I'm very good at debating people. In fact, I can kick most people's butt at a debate. But what I understand about debating, especially ball earthers, is that it's completely pointless, because neither side is going to they're not going to concede anything. So what is the point? So my approach instead is to simply put out juicy nuggets of information like that, and let people decide for themselves. And as I made the plea a couple weeks ago on Globebusters, it's like, you know what, guys, if you're a creator, do not let the trolls take over your channel. All it does is takes away from the message. People get discouraged. They get, because the trolls come on there, they want to, call you stupid. They want to, make it seem like you are less intelligent, right? And the fact is most flat earthers, from my experience, are far more intelligent than your average ball earther, right? And the ball earthers, of course, are going to laugh their ass off at that, right? But the reality is I think we all know that's true, you know, especially being able to see this from our particular side of it. So, what they're doing, when they send the trolls in like this, is they know exactly what they're doing. They can't win the argument um, on solid science, so they have to do it using psychological methodologies, right? And we've outlined those several times, but ridicule and insults and all this stuff is just one of the many weapons they have in their arsenal. So to me, it's like, screw these guys. We don't need them.
Thank you so much, Bob, for taking the time, though, to address those questions from our friend there. Not friend necessarily, but person in chat that was wondering.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Hey, got you a super chat.
And the super chat. Hey, if you pay the troll toll, I don't mind you dropping some questions. And Trevor nicely dealt with, nothing ugly returning. I did see some scuffle there in chat. Speaking of chat, welcome back, Sue Finelli. So glad to have you back in chat with us. Love, 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 hug, hug, hug.
Yep.
Sorry to do these things.
But that's a really sorry to interrupt again, but that's a really good point that you mentioned, Bob, because you're sharing information, not to mention that we're actually doing real experiments. But I don't see any globe earthers going, hey, I took my camera out or my telescope and I'm proving the curvature, because they can't do it. They have to go and go, oh, the reason I saw that was refraction, and, you know, do all this, you know, this magical shit. But we're actually, you know, on my channel, Billy Zigg, if you go on YouTube, I go out to the beach every second day and I take some pretty cool footage. My latest one, you know, you get the one with the oil rig. They saw at 12 miles. Well, my one's at 20 miles that I just did last night and the night before.
Oh, kind of like a black swan.
Yeah, well, I'd go black swan and above, because even flat earth and all these guys actually, you know, go, oh, well, really? Is that how far? You know, yeah. So
hey, it's so hard to get anybody's channel these days on YouTube. Drop it here in our chat, and
it's taken me about 5 years to get to 850 subscribers or whatever. I do it naturally, experiment, and then I get a lot of people in Melbourne that go, wow, I never wondered whether the water is level over, you know, Port Phillip Bay, which is one of the largest bays in the world. Look it up. It's 70 k's that way, 90 k's that way. So you're talking a really large bay, which is flat, and water is level, as we know.
Is it still 1,000 subs to get up to a live stream, people? I'm not even sure.
No, you can live stream with any amount of people, just not from a mobile device.
Oh, okay. All right. So we need to get Billy up to 1,000 then. But
and you know what? If you use something like StreamYard, you can bypass that also. You don't even need that.
Nice.
So there's ways around it. So that, you know, that old tired thing, you don't have to rely on YouTube and, you know, your 1,000 subs for mobile anymore. Just use a StreamYard device and then you're fine.
Like I said, Billy, drop it here in our chat on the call, and I'll get it in the chat for everybody and put it in our show description.
That's good to know, because I want to get out there and just show people real life stuff, which my point was the Globers never do. They never do experiment.
No, they don't. They just troll. They just troll. And actually, I recognize that particular screen name. There was multiple comments left in Globebusters by this person, and I think I deleted them all because they were not nice. And you know, but like I said, you ask nice and we'll respond. But you come in acting like, you know, your shit don't stink and you think you're smarter than we are, then, you know, I'm just gonna delete it. I will not delete. I will not deal with anybody like that. Period.
I do the same, Bob. Actually, like they'll waste. Like it looks like it took them 10 minutes to write a comment. I was like, "See you later," because you're an asshole. They're rude. Yeah, don't come at me with. They start off with, "Oh, you stupid flat earther," and then they keep going. It's like, is that where you started the conversation? Well,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, and then it's like prove it to me. It's like, you know, they want a personal audience where they want, you know, like we have the time to sit here and prove it to them, right? And they just want to argue about it. It's like, you know what? We've done shows, millions and millions and millions of views for 6 years now. There is so much information in there. You know, get off your butt and do some research. And then once you actually understand the most basics of questions, then yeah, come in and ask some questions. But frankly, asking why we can't see Polaris is such a 101 question. It's ridiculous. Where are the pics of the dome? Another 101. You know, how do eclipses work? Well, you know something, that's the other part. Eclipses, there are other bodies up there which have actually been photographed. Some people call them Rahu and Ketu. But the thing you really have to ask yourself is, you have to look and evaluate at the heliocentric model of eclipses and how unbelievably wrong they are and how they do not work and the problems with them. And we've covered this over and over and over
just
again.
Had an unscheduled an eclipse of some sort occur. Friends of ours took pictures of it. Looking at you, Candy, I Spy NASA Lives. I think our buddy, was it Brian, sent us a picture as well of the sun eclipse thing that happened. It was during the fires and they blamed it on the fires, but yeah, you could see it was a round object in front of the freaking sun.
Oh, ridiculous. And if I've witnessed a selenian eclipse, and after I saw that, man, in Melbourne, 2017, it was just their most mind blowing. So there were actually astronomers that we were waiting for the eclipse to occur, and there were astronomers there, photographers there, and then I went, "Oh, look at that! The sun's up there and the moon's there," and they all just looked at me, and I said, "Have you ever heard of a selenium eclipse?" And they all just looked at me. I've got astrophysicists, photographers, who are professional, and they went, "Nah," and I went, "Well, you better go home and Google it." And they ran off within 10 minutes because I was educating everyone around me, going, "You shouldn't be seeing that. You shouldn't be doing that." And they were so embarrassed they didn't even know the word.
Right.
Although they tried to attack me first.
And what is their excuse? What is their excuse? Oh, it's refraction. Yeah, refraction that literally pulls it hundreds of miles above the atmosphere. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. And the other thing that globers don't seem to understand is they say, well, all the math works, all the eclipses, all these predictions work, based on the globe model. It's like, no, wrong. All of the eclipses are based on what's called the Soros cycle. Okay, and the Soros cycle was observed for millennia, right? And it's simply because of the fact that the skies reset every single year, which, by the way, is something that should never happen if you are traveling, billions of miles every year across the universe.
Nope.
But the skies reset every single year, right? And it's a matter of observation. That is how we have determined, how eclipses work. It has nothing to do with the heliocentric model. And in fact, the mainstream will try and tell you that, oh yeah, we've known that it was a globe for over 2,000 years from Eratosthenes, and of course we've ripped that completely apart. The globes didn't even exist until 1492, right? Only for 500 years. And people are completely brainwashed. They've been completely lied to, and they buy all of it. It makes me crazy. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox.
Bob O rant. Yes, love it. Birthday rant. You need it, brother.
That's right. So, but yeah, that's why we do this. That's why we do what we do. And I really can't stand people that come in demanding answers to 101 questions when they've clearly done zero research. That just really torques me off.
Well, again, thank you for
You're very welcome.
Time for our buddy Nappy.
Yep. And you know what? It's like 20 after 9 here, so I'm probably going to bow out of here because I know you guys, it's a late show for everybody.
Thank you again for the time, and thank you for, as I said, sharing your time there on chat. You're always welcome. Truly, happy birthday, friend. I'm glad you shared it with us.
I think we just wanted to talk off a little bit.
Well done. And you're so right about all the, everything. I don't know if there's any one person I've learned more from than you, Bob, and even you're saying about the Soros cycles, just all of this. Yeah. Anyway, happy birthday. I bet you Cami has got your nice cake waiting for you.
Yeah, she's going to make me a German chocolate cake, which is my favorite.
Oh, good call, Bob.
Good stuff.
Awesome. Good on you, Cami, as well.
Yep. Okay, guys.
You'll get you some rest too, Cami. I know you're recovering from the con flu there. So love you so much, lady. Love you, Bob. Y'all take care.
Love you guys. Happy Friday night, Saturday morning. Peace out.
Peace out. Good night, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Billy, thank you so much for sharing your time with us again. I've put all the links there in the chat, in the show description.
Thank you so much. It's been
you have some time, you let us know. Come hang out, friend. And like I said,
we do a thing in the morning over here where it might be your afternoon or evening.
Work out to my time, to be honest.
Yeah.
Being
up in the morning show with Billy Zigg. We'll get you about 6 or 7 beers in and have a good conversation.
Hell yeah.
I'm about 6 or 7 in by now.
Nice. Thank you, friend.
God bless, man. Love yous. I'm gonna love yous and leave yous. And Josh, Walt, John, and Zach.
That's it. Nailed it.
Let's do it again.
Please do.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man.
Love you.
Cheers, gentlemen. All the best.
Billy.
Thank you for having
me on. Take care, Billy. Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye.
Absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
What an awesome guy.
I know how to get
Yeah, it's a red button somewhere down to the
I
bottom
see the
right.
red button here now. Yeah.
All right, brother. You take care of yourself.
I'm out of here. Bye-bye.
Epic Friday all the way around. My goodness.
There was something really kind of weird there. I don't know. I've again been in contact with Billy for several months. This was our third attempt at actually at trying to get him on a Good Friday night show. But there was something the minute he clicked that camera on, there was something really familiar about Billy. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I just kind of sat in that energy, even after you all had this huge deja vu moment. The whole time I'm just sitting in that kind of deja vu boundary, just kind of floating here thinking, why is this energy so weird? Why is this so weird? There's just something really strange about this whole show. I don't know what it was with Billy, but there was some weird energy for me, and apparently for you too. That was weird. I don't know. Thought I'd put that out there.
I'm so glad we finally got him on.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
And to think, we thought we'd be out of here in 35 minutes.
We said it.
Yep. So, and Bob said it as well, that our sometimes best shows are the ones we don't plan at all. And it turned out that the plan we had was even better than we thought. So truly, again, thank you so much, Billy. Come back anytime. As I said, once you've been in the house, the door's never locked. So come on in again. And Bob, truly, man, happy birthday, you old fuck. Enjoy it. Love you. Cammie, thank you. Love you. John Savage, I know you're lurking there somewhere.
You lurking.
So Zach, why don't you remind everybody about what's happening here next Friday night?
Next Friday, we're going to have a guy on, Izzo22. Dom, he goes by. And he was watching one of my videos about the seed book, going over seeds and just talking about gardening and stuff like that. And he got inspired, went out and bought the book, went and built a greenhouse and started gardening. This was like middle of the summer, not springtime when you normally do. He just wanted to do it. He wanted to try it and see what happens. Well, he had been also looking at other things, with magnetism and how it affects plants. And there's been people putting videos out about that. But instead of just putting the magnet underneath the plant, like something with the water, like he put a bunch of magnets around a tube, I think, and ran the water through it. And it did something to the water. And the water he applied to these plants over here, they were huge, like 3 times more. They produce 3 times more than the plants that he didn't put the water on. He just did regular water.
That is,
And that's just huge. That's crazy. If it's simple stuff like that you can do to get those kind of yields and stuff like that.
It's a game changer.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody's ever tried it before.
A massive game changer if it was
that easy
and consistent. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to have him on and talk about it. We'll get a pre-show Wednesday, so that'll be cool. We'll get to meet him and everything, and then go over what he has, and then we'll get to share it with everybody on Friday.
That's going to be awesome. And speaking of Wednesday pre-shows, in our desire to sort of maybe invest a little time and energy into our Patreon account, which we've had for years and years and never done anything with, we thought maybe we'd make an attempt. So I've decided to try to put some exclusive content out there on Patreon just for that reason. So we're going through some old stuff, and John Savage sent me something, and I broke it up into 2 separate videos. The first of which can be found over there on Patreon right now for all of our patrons. It's our pre-show production meeting with Chris Van Matry when he had captured his double son. And I saw there was some discussion in the chat about having caught the double sun and maybe getting Walt some pictures emailed to him.
Please, absolutely. I gave you my email address there in chat, Grasshopper in the tent. Definitely send me those pics. I love sky pics and I love assembling them into videos. So certainly do that. It may take a minute, but get them to me and I'll definitely do that for sure. But yeah, that talk with Chris about capturing the sun and the setup with his equipment, man, yeah. Speaking of, we need to get Chris back over here. It's been way too long.
It has been way too long. And well, because Chris was such a big fan of Crow 777s and he had just got this footage, we thought we might be able to see if we could get Crow on with Chris there for our production meeting. So Walt makes some moves in the background, gets a hold of Jason Lindgren, who gets a hold of Crow. And the second video is the introduction of Crow and Chris and Jason and everybody, and talking about capturing the second sun and how they both did it and the different ways, and trying to figure out how to differentiate and make sure that what we're seeing is an actual object and not some sort of lens flare or some refraction from an actual sun. And just it's just a really good conversation. Apparently I bowed out of it at some point, because as I was editing, I got to the end and realized that my little icon wasn't there anymore. I have no idea when I left. So I got to hear probably quite a bit of this for the first time.
I think that was like a 5 hour something or
Yeah, it
other
really got in depth. We all had a
pre-show.
blast. Yeah,
Yeah.
really great. And then got uh, with Jason and Crow, and it went probably another hour and a half, I think, or two, something. It was
About an
long.
hour and a half. I got it down to about an hour and 3, so it probably wasn't even that long. It was probably closer to an hour and 15, maybe, because I really didn't cut a whole lot out. The only stuff I cut out for the patrons was just the super really boring stuff. I left in a little bit of our boring stuff because that's what a behind the scenes is supposed to be about, is just a glimpse into seeing just some of that boring stuff and how it is we actually interact with each other. Which
Was it 15 minutes of silence? No, I'm joking.
you'd be surprised how
We
much
only do that when we're on the air.
silence and some hemming and hawing from John Savage gets cut out. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot to cut out. It's a really good conversation. And here's a little teaser for anybody that's considering maybe going over there and signing up. This is, if you listen closely to the video that I said December, I'm going to have a hard time keeping this under wraps because I'm really going to want people to hear this because this is a good one. But if you listen closely, Crow has a conversation, and in the background you can hear his wife speaking. I don't know if there's anybody else that has Crow's wife recorded, but if you listen really closely, you can hear her in the background being completely unimpressed by the fact that somebody else captured a second son the exact same way and near the same time he did. But it's in there. So just a little sneak peek, just a little teaser there for everybody. It's edited. I've got to put just a little bit more polish on there, maybe some sort of branding on there for me, because I don't think I did much of that for the first one. But as I get the hang of actually editing, because I've said I'm going to do it and never have, so I'm actually trying to make an effort to get it done, and it's going swimmingly, I think.